Have you guys ever watched, no. You guys have any recommendations? Any video recommendations? I was thinking there's 2 channels I could watch, but I've already watched all the videos on all of them. Doshington, here we go. This is a good video. He's a funny guy.
Roguelike is a term that's thrown around a lot these days, and it really boggles my noggin that most people who use it haven't even seen, let alone played, a traditional roguelike. It's not to be pedantic
Super
or elitist
old
or
style
anything,
games.
I just think more people should play them.
Or
But on the
Fortress
same hand,
and
understand
well,
why more
Factoria's
people
not
don't.
old, but like
With games like
sort of
Caves
old,
of Blood,
old,
Cogmine,
old-ish.
Cataclysm, Dark Days Ahead, and hundreds of others, despite being more numerous than ever, the genre remains incredibly niche, for reasons that will hopefully become self-evident by the time you're through with this. Roguelikes hold a special place in my heart. As far back as kindergarten, I can recall playing Castle of the Winds, published in 1992 by the now rather notorious Epic Games. I remember really important that people know it's exactly like Rogue. Call that shit Domains of Mystery originally came out in 19, and the reason I knew what a corpse was before I could fully comprehend mortality. Oh yeah, and it's why I could touch type at like age 6 thanks to memorizing all the some dozen key bindings, but I digress. I also played a good deal of NetHack, which my parents thought was a virus, but the game I really landed on was Adam, or ADOM, whatever you want to call it. So before I decided to make this video, I really considered whether a game with letters for graphics and the need to explain what's a wall and a door, as well as which one of these random symbols is the one I'm actually controlling, would be the best topic for a video.
Watch it real quick.
But this is my channel, I can do what I want with it, and what I want to do is talk
about... That's a classic video. I can't click and drag anything. That's not right. On. Bro, why can't I control? Is it really making me? Oh my god. Okay.
American 462 descend and maintain flight level 280.
This is a classic video. 16 years old.
It's a great pleasure, thank you.
This ship that was involved in the incident off Western Australia this week...
Yeah, the one the front fell off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not very typical. I'd like to make that point.
Well, how is it untypical?
Well, there are a lot of these ships going around the world all the time, and very seldom does anything like this happen. I just don't want people thinking that tankers aren't safe.
Was this tanker safe?
Well, I was thinking more about the other ones.
The ones that are safe?
Yeah, the ones the front doesn't fall off.
Well, if this wasn't safe, why did it have 80,000 tons of oil on it?
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't safe. It's just perhaps not quite as safe as some of the other ones.
Why?
Well, some of them are built so the front doesn't fall off at all.
Well, wasn't this built so the front wouldn't fall off?
Well, obviously not.
How do you know?
Well, because the front fell off and 20,000 tonnes of crude oil spilled into the sea caught fire. It's a bit of a giveaway. I just like to make the point that that is not normal.
Well, what sort of standards are these oil tankers built to?
Oh, very rigorous maritime engineering standards.
What sort of thing?
Well, the front's not supposed to fall off for a start.
And what other things?
Well, there are regulations governing the materials that they can be made of.
What materials?
Well, cardboard's out.
And?
No cardboard derivatives.
Like paper?
No paper. No string, no sellotape.
Rubber?
No, rubber's out. They've got to have a steering wheel. There's a minimum crew requirement.
What's the minimum crew?
Oh, one, I suppose.
So the allegations that they're just designed to carry as much oil as possible...
I haven't watched this in years.
That's ludicrous.
Absolutely ludicrous. These are very, very strong vessels.
So what happened in this case?
Well, the front fell off in this case, by all means, but very unusual.
But Senator Collins, why did the front not fall off?
Well, a wave hit it.
A wave hit it?
A wave hit the ship.
Is that unusual?
Oh, yeah. At sea, chance in a million.
So what do you do to protect the environment?
Well, the ship was towed outside the environment.
Into another environment?
No, it's been towed beyond the environment. It's
Yeah,
not in the environment.
No, but from one environment to another.
On the environment. It's not in an environment. It has been towed beyond the environment.
Well, what's out there?
Nothing's out there.
Well, there must be something.
There is nothing out there. All there is sea and birds and fish.
And
20,000 tonnes of crude oil.
what else?
And a fire.
And anything else?
And the nothing else out there.
Senator Collins, thanks for joining
Complete void.
us. Yeah, we're out of
The
time.
environment's perfectly safe. We're out of time. Can you book me a cab?
Didn't you come to the Commonwealth Cup?
Yes, I did.
What happened?
Well, the front fell off.
Classic.
Southwest 2700
No!
and maintain
Fuck!
flight level 340.
How do I right click? Wait, no, I can do this. Control Shift T. There we go.
Roguelike is a term that's thrown around a lot these days, and it really boggles my noggle that most people who use it haven't even seen, let alone played a traditional roguelike. It's not to be pedantic or elitist or anything, I just think more people should play them, but on the same
how it
hand
snaps
understand why
the
more people
position of
don't.
them.
With games like Caves of Clud, Cogmine,
Yeah.
Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, and hundreds of others, despite being more numerous than ever, the genre remains incredibly niche, for reasons that will hopefully become self-evident by the time you're through with this
Who's
video.
that in the
But
distance?
roguelikes hold a special place in my heart.
What's that
As
light
far
in the
back as
distance?
kindergarten, I can recall playing Castle of the Winds,
See?
published in 1992 by the now rather notorious Epic Games. I remember talking to my teacher about it for like 20 minutes straight, and because I was 5 years old, I thought she was genuinely interested and asked my dad how to burn it onto a floppy disk as soon as I got home so I could give it to her the next day. No idea if she ever played it.
We'll find out.
Then there was the time I won the spelling bee in the first grade because I knew how to spell medium thanks to the spell Cure Medium Wounds. And the reason I knew what a corpse was before I could fully comprehend mortality. Oh yeah, and it's why I could touch type at like age 6 thanks to memorizing all the some dozen key bindings. But I digress. I also played a good deal of
Good.
NetHack, which my parents thought was a virus, but the
So
game I
time
really
remaining on
landed on
timer.
was ADOM, whatever you want to call it. So before I decided to make this video, I really considered whether a game with letters for graphics to explain what's a wall and a door, as well as which one of these random symbols is the one I'm actually controlling, would be the best topic for a video. But this is my channel, I can do what I want with it, and what I want to do is talk about this game that I've been playing for over 20 years and know way too much about. And besides, I've heard what people really want is passion. And yeah, I can give you passion. Ancient Domains of Mystery originally came out in 1994 through various stages of alpha and beta, but the final version came out in 2002, which makes it a spring chicken compared to some OGs like NetHack and Angbond, but I'm still coming to terms with the fact that was still a
This
very
looks right
long
here.
time ago.
Skyline gun.
That was
Seems
the
like a
version I
bigger
played the
city.
most, with all its quirks and foibles still intact, like jackals and spiders becoming exponentially more difficult to kill until they rivaled the final boss, throwing potions of invisibility at enemies inexplicably making them give
here.
twice the experience, and being able to infinitely double your money by giving it to a dragon until you accidentally make so much you cause an integer overflow and crash the game. Oh yeah, and a fatal crash anytime you dropped an ingot after smelting it, or
Coney
tried to eat
Lake.
the
Seems like
corpse
a
of a
lake,
werewolf
like a
king.
little lake city
And by
or
the way, it
something.
doesn't matter if you were playing that run for 20 hours, if you crashed once, you were never getting that character back. Regardless,
stuff
we made it
here.
work. And imagine my shock when suddenly the developers started up an Indiegogo campaign out of nowhere to revive Adam and resume development, eventually reaching 187% of their goal and ultimately bringing Adam to Steam in 2015. Yeah, so I'm a little late to the party, but better late than never, I suppose. Alright, enough of the history lessons. What the heck is Adam? Well, it's a tile-based, top-down, turn-based RPG with procedural generation, permadeath, and ASCII graphics. With the 2015 release, there's actually tile sets now, and I tried to use them, but it just felt deeply and viscerally wrong. Like you're crouching
Guys,
is
where the
shape-shifted
iPad
into your
is.
wife, but you're too afraid to say anything. Also, it was actually making me worse at the game because I didn't recognize any of the monsters, so ASCII it is. It might not be the best for the video, but let's just say it's for that authentic roguelike experience. So if you want to play Adam, first you need to make a character, and to do that you need to choose the month you were born on. Back in my day, you didn't get to choose, it was just random and you kept quitting over and over until you got the one you wanted. In my objectively correct opinion, the Raven is flagrantly better than all the others. Shout out to the tree if you're new, I guess. Then you choose male or female,
It
and
doesn't
your
explain
race.
what any
It
of
might
those
seem
mean.
complicated, but realistically it narrows down to the question, are you a wizard? If not, does your class start with the Find Weakness skill? If not, choose a Dark Elf. Otherwise, choose anything but a Troll. Finally, you're ready to choose your class. Alright, so I've beaten the game with most of these, and let me simplify it for you. There we go. In fact, let me put this all onto a tier list. Again, this is all objectively correct. As you can see, there's a bit of a power gap, and that's because archers and wizards specialize in killing things from places where they can't get killed from. Something melee fighters haven't quite figured out yet. On top of that, archers handily
That's cool.
outdamage
What
every
is
other
that? Is
class,
that like
while
a
wizards
storm
just do
system
everything.
over a big city?
Everyone in F tier is either
It looks
just
so
plain
weird.
bad or a worse version of another class, like
Distance
Minecrafters.
over
Really
there.
interesting and unique abilities, and a great challenge class if you want meeting a single Ghost King to be a run-ending experience. Priests and druids are just worse wizards, then there's merchants, farmers, and thieves. Again, great if you're looking for a challenge, but you win by killing things, not pickpocketing them to death. There's a lot of curious design choices in this game. Like, half the skills are straight up useless, but I'm getting
Are
ahead
we
of
still
myself.
talking to Albuquerque?
Alright, so finally you get to choose your stats.
Should've been transferred
and
to
I don't
some
care
sort
how
of center
magical
by
you
now.
plan to be, you want strength and toughness.
Kirby
Also,
Center,
appearance
maybe?
and
I think we
charisma
are on
are
Kirby
almost
Center,
entirely
actually.
worthless, so get rid of those. We're still not done. Now you need to choose a talent, and just look at all these possibilities. What to pick? Well, I've got news for you, buddy. If you didn't pick Alert, you are an idiot. Perception might seem worthless, but you can only get Alert at the start of the game, and not getting it locks you out of hands down the best talent in the game, Treasure Hunter.
Confident.
So yeah,
Oh, it's-
pick that one.
Damn, is it 10 o'clock?
Enter your name, and now if you want to actually play the game, you need to memorize
okay,
dozens
time
of
flies.
key bindings. Memorized them all yet? Good. Now you can run around to the overworld and starve to death because you haven't yet realized that you need to press greater than to actually enter an area on the map. I've really got to wonder what this looks like to all you unenlightened viewers, because all I can see are lush
Fair
forests,
progress.
verdant fields, and vertiginous mountains that we'll mostly be ignoring. Once you've figured out how to actually
20
enter a
miles to our
dungeon, the
next
gameplay is pretty
waypoint.
simple. This is your health, don't let it reach 0. That's it. Well, apart from starvation, death rays, old age, getting sacrificed, entering the chaos portal, petrification, hearing a banshee scream, getting eaten by a grue, choking on your own vomit, kicking the staircase, getting crushed by your own inventory, and reaching maximum corruption, as long as it's not any of those things, as long as your HP remains above 0, you're good. All the moving letters
we
that aren't you
are
are enemies, and to attack them, you just walk into them. You
384
can also shoot them with
miles
missiles
away
or
from
blast
Las
them with magic.
Vegas.
Reduce their hit points to 0, and you'll get some experience and
400.
maybe items. Realistically, most of the gameplay is mashing your face against things until
570
one of you
from
falls
Austin.
over, but I assure you it's everything surrounding that which is complicated. You've got your
That's
equipment, your
about
inventory, your
2
weapon
hours.
skills, your stats, your talents, your class abilities, your defense
hours,
value, your
maybe
protection
3
value,
hours.
and your hidden intrinsics that you can only see by drinking a potion. All things that determine how effectively you can mash your face against things. If you get enough experience, you'll level up and get to train some skills. You'll also get more health, and at certain levels, you'll get access to unique class
I'm sitting
abilities.
back in my chair.
Much like any
and
dungeon
relaxing.
crawler, your goal is to get strong enough to eventually beat the game by gaining experience, raising your stats, and finding better gear. Really, that's it. Just running around
80
procedurally
gallons an
generated
hour?
dungeons
80?
and trying to avoid dying. To me, the most interesting aspect of games like this is that because it's turn-based, the gameplay is purely strategic. I mean, you could have nothing but a nose and still beat Adam. Every ounce of fun this game has to offer is derived from the effective application of acquired knowledge, as well as contending against RN Jesus. Actually getting that knowledge, however, is the real challenge, and it's only through many, many deaths that you'll start to understand even an ounce of how to beat a game like this. I was going to script out this big wall of text talking about the many challenges and difficulties in getting into most roguelikes, but instead of that, I've decided to simply explain what I need to do when I'm trying to get an ultimate ending in
First
Adam.
game I played
So I decided to make a
was
Dark Elven
technically
Barbarian
like a
born on the
Bob the
Raven,
Builder
pick a Lord and
game or
Miser
an
to unlock
Atomic
Treasure
Tank Engine
Hunter
game
and
on my
enter
old
my name.
Macintosh.
The first thing I do is
Had a
unequip one of the swords
little
the game started
joystick
me with
and
because wielding
it was
two
like
is
a
way
kid's
worse than
game,
just
if
one.
you want to count
Then I
that.
go to Lowen
The
and
first
Ulthethel
real
and
video
immediately
game I
obliterate
played,
a
like,
beggar. It'll make
consciously.
sense later, okay? Then I head over to
Halo
Terranio and grab the
3
Elder's Quest before
and-
heading down
no,
to the
no.
dungeon. This character didn't start with the healing skill, so this is almost necessary.
What's this?
We're desperate for any equipment that offers PV.
These are the first games I owned, but the first games I played, probably Mario Party or Smash Brothers, and Smash like Brawl or Melee, whichever was the one on the N64, or Smash 64 maybe. No, yeah, Smash 64 I think was my first ever video game. It's either that or there was on something on the N64. It was either that or Banjo-Kazooie. That was the first game I ever played, but that was my sister's N64. First game I owned, the first game that was mine, I got an Xbox 360 for Christmas. Oh shit. I hit the yoke with the... I hit the yoke with my knee and it disengaged the autopilot. My first game I owned was when I got an Xbox 360 for Christmas was Viva Pinata and Halo 3. Those are the first 2 games I really actually played. And then Modern Warfare 2. And then Crackdown. Halo 3 and Viva Pinata are some of my favorite games of all time. There's traffic in front of us. Oh, this is a city. Is that a city in front of us? What is that? Or is that a mountain? What is that? What big city is in front of us? Albuquerque. That's Albuquerque? Holy shit. Look at that. Wow. Okay. That is, I didn't realize Albuquerque was so big. Yeah, this is Albuquerque up here. ABQ. Okay. Viva Pinata was the first. Probably for Viva Pinata was the first thing I played, then Halo, because it came with the Xbox. They're out of Cheez-Its. What do they want? Cheese balls? Yes. Oh my God, cheese balls sound so good. Kiwi, you're making me hungry. Why? Anyways, after. After Viva Pinata. I mean, yeah, Viva Pinata was the first game I owned that I played. And the first game I ever played was probably Smash 64 or Melee? No. Yes, 64. I didn't use the N64 a lot. We got a GameCube shortly after. I was like, the first thing I vaguely remember playing stuff on the N64, like Mario Kart, but I mostly remember playing stuff on the GameCube, like Double Dash and Melee. Yep, yeah, Melee. But yeah, let's resume this. Oh. Let's see what this looks like from a distance. Oh, with the light, with the lights on, yeah, with the fucking sun on. Wow. Look at that. Look at that, like, ridge right there, that fault line or wherever the hell that is. Look at that.
Frontier Flight 1471 heavy descend and maintain flight level tree 60. Skywest tree 145 descend and maintain flight level 200.
It's honestly more impressive at night. But that's cool, the mountains. Look at that. That's still cool. There's an airport right over there too. Let's declutter the map a little. So to do that, we'd go here, change the map details. We don't need all those waypoints. Oh, did that really get rid of the airports too? Finally, they fucking called us. 1328, okay.
Going to 132.8 Charlie Uniform Mike.
Frontier Flight 1471 heavy descend and maintain flight
1328. Swap and transfer. Contact
Albuquerque
them.
Center, November 69er Charlie Uniform Mike 11,000 feet.
November 69er Charlie Uniform Mike Albuquerque Center altimeter 30.19er. Continue to Alpha
3019er. Yeah, let's get rid of those intersections. There we go. We don't need all those intersections on there. 3019er. Where's my mouse? Okay. The altimeter setting is much different here. Okay. And then we'll do down. There we go. Mountains. Nearest airport, Albuquerque, 5,000 feet. So we're feet, or 6,000 feet above ground level right now. Resume.
And a direct reduction on damage received, and if you have below like 4 or 5, you'll just die. All the way to the bottom, we'll find the Mad Carpenter. Instead of killing him, we lead him to Gerard the Healer, who will turn him back to normal and teach us the healing skill as long as our alignment isn't chaotic, which I can rectify by offering 1 gold coin at a time to this neutral altar. As soon as I have healing, I head to another dungeon to save a girl's puppy. I don't care whether it lives or dies, I'm just here for the experience. There's ants on level 2, and I really want them to drop a corpse because eating it makes you vomit and permanently gives intrinsic acid resistance.
On in the background.
Near the bottom, I find 7 league boots, which are insanely rare to find this early, and basically the best boots in the game, except they're cursed and make me move 50% slower, so trying desperately to avoid killing a cat, I run back to the altar and sacrifice enemies that stand on top of it until the neutral god is very pleased. I drop everything on the altar, and that gives me holy water, which I can use to bless the boots and get the intended benefit of 25% less energy to move and extremely fast travel times on the overworld. Back in the puppy cave, the puppy is dead, but who cares? I give its corpse back to the girl, and she cries, and now I'm strong enough to head into the main dungeon, the Caverns of Chaos.
Hell yeah.
Chaos is scheming to take over the world from the depths of this dungeon, and it's up to us to stop it by closing the portal at the bottom. Then there's this big room, and those green quotation marks are herbs. It's important to force them to grow in squares because they follow the rules of Conway's Game of Life, and a square is the easiest stable shape that won't
trust
cause
me,
them
I don't
to
like
wither and
ASMR
allows us
either.
to
I would
continuously
never.
pick them.
Don't worry.
I want Stomophilia, Spenceweed, Morgan Roots, and Moss of Marilon. They can be used to raise certain stats and heal. Also, there's another cat that I've got to get away from and lock it behind these doors because you really don't want to kill cats. Deeper in is the Dwarven City. We want to ask the Dwarven Elder about quests. He'll tell us to kill something random, and as soon as I do that, I'm given the Potion of Literacy, which will allow my illiterate barbarian to read. As soon as I can read, I dip the Scrolls of Identify I found into my holy water and then read 1 to instantly identify everything in my inventory. If you didn't know how to bless water on an altar and then use that to bless items, well, looks like you're an idiot. We're given another quest to go deeper and traverse either the Dwarven Halls or the Animated Forest. The latter is annoying and requires high defense as well as patience, while the Dwarven Halls are an excellent place to die because they can spawn any monster, which usually results in getting insta-killed by a great karmic worm. So to improve my chances, I hang out in the big room until a blink dog spawns. They can summon more blink dogs, and so I wait around until they call in even more. Their corpse is very useful and will allow me to naturally control teleportation after eating it. I eventually get one, but also get a second corpse. I sell that to the shopkeeper in Dwarftown because corpses don't rot in stores. With Control Teleport, I can now go to the Dusty Dungeon and teleport using a teleport trap into the secret room to get the guaranteed Wand of Teleportation. With this, I can safely traverse the Dwarven Halls, but it's also an incredible tool for general survivability. Beyond that, we find Kelavaster, the Dying Sage. We need him to live, and despite being on the verge of death, he'll be fine as long as we don't talk to him. I complete the Dwarf's quest and get the Wand of Fireballs. With this, we can safely take on the Pyramid on the Overworld, which will close permanently if we don't beat it before reaching level 17. There's many strong enemies at the top, and Rehetep is a formidable foe, but he's weak to fire, and the Wand will kill him almost instantly. He drops 2 artifacts. His Ankh makes you lucky, and his mummy wrapping is barely passable as early game armor, but we want it for the ice immunity and sea invisible intrinsics it offers. With that, we can confidently complete the Dwarf's next quest to conquer the arena. You're stuck in a fight to the death, but the Wand of Teleportation will allow us to escape if we start losing, or to teleport out any cats that we're put up against. The 20th fight is often against an invisible opponent with ice magic, but we got the troll this time. We get the Golden Gladius as a reward and trade it to the Grizzled Gladiator in Dwarftown to learn the tactics and backstabbing skills. The final quest is to kill a greater demon in the city, and we get an artifact for our efforts. With those out of the way, we can now ask him about a portal despite not seeing it yet because the dying sage is blocking the stairs to actually reach it. Regardless, he'll tell us to go kill a necromancer in this graveyard all the way over here. If you're immune to cold, Nonak's a pushover. What you want to do is defile this grave and get Nonak's sword. It sucks, but we can use it later. Also, make sure you search this hidden wall and get the elemental gauntlets. So yeah, roguelikes can be a little complicated, and all of that knowledge is written in blood. Either that or with liberal use of a wiki, but even if you're playing with a wiki open on another monitor, it won't save you because you don't know what you don't know. You've been watching this for a while, but even now there's no way you could guess which monster on this screen is the most dangerous. Is it the big black W? The brown Y? Well, if you guessed the black L, you're correct. That's an Emperor Lich, capable of killing you instantly with death rays, permanently draining your stats, summoning dozens of powerful monsters, and repeatedly healing itself to max HP. I know this because I've died to them before, but no observer has any chance of ascertaining anything implicitly. Unless you've played the game as much as me, you'll have zero reaction to me suddenly walking in on this giant crowd of Lich Kings, but immediately
If we had
I'm
an electronic CDI, it would auto-switch.
summon a door before they notice me.
We don't really
Despite
even
being
need
simple
it.
text,
We have this
some very
GPS
powerful
which has its
affective
own
responses
CDI
to
at the
every
bottom
enemy in
right
the
here.
game, and that's
But
one of the
it's
most
still nice
interesting
to have.
aspects to me. Even without sophisticated graphics, I'm
We have
immersed.
everything match
I'm tired
each
of acting
other
like
so you can
advanced
cross-check
graphics are
everything.
necessary to create a compelling experience,
Things
but I will
malfunction.
acquiesce that it does help with accessibility for reasons aforementioned. I'm probably not going to blow any minds when I say that accessibility is the main reason roguelikes remain an incredible niche. They're about as accessible as a brick wall, and the issues with conveyance definitely hinders their reach. You don't see many people streaming Adam or most other roguelikes very often, and those who do are either already experienced with the game or doing it for an audience entirely comprised of other players. It's a very personal game, and no one but you will really understand it, because all of the interesting things here are going on inside of my head, and unless you're the government, you probably can't read that. Even though I think roguelikes are more popular now than ever, it just so happens that they've only ever been popular
Oh,
with
it does not
massive
change in
nerds.
Australia, but yes,
If
the
you
main
don't
pilot,
implicitly
the
enjoy
captain's on
learning
the
things and
left, the
challenging
first
yourself,
officer
I'm not
is
sure
on
you
the
can ever
right.
enjoy a traditional roguelike, but
You
there's
don't
just
generally
something
use that
compelling about
term
slowly
outside of the
learning and then
airlines
applying your
or like
knowledge.
corporate
That's
flying.
probably why I ended up liking Factorio so much. It's a similar experience of
Truly-
feeling like you never stop learning and always being able to apply what you
Generally,
learned
but
in new and
yes, the
interesting
captain would be on the
ways.
left, the first
Since I
officer
found
is
a
the
ring
one
of
on the
fish,
right,
I
the
decided to look
co-pilot.
for the hidden underwater
The
staircase
actual
on the
term is
map.
first
This place
officer.
has several monsters that will
It's
instantly
not really
kill
that
zone my
picky, no
level,
one
but
really
fortunately I
cares,
can
unless
simply
you're like in
teleport
an
to the middle
actual
and talk to the
professional
water
setting.
dragon.
Wouldn't
I tell
be
the
in an
baby water
airline
dragon
talking
where
like
his
at
mom
an
is,
interview
because I
and
was
talking
born on
about
a
the
raven, I get the
co-pilot. You'd be
rune-covered
talking about the
trident at
first
level
officer.
16 instead of 36. The trident
Or
is reasonably
the flight
powerful, so I
instructor
take
could
on
be
the dark
usually
lord.
sits on the right and the
Guarded by
student
several
sits on the
steel
left,
golems,
though.
which all have
That's the
extremely
time when the
high
rules are
PV.
sort of reversed.
Just to
When
be
you're
safe,
learning
I
to get your
use
private
stair
pilot's
hopping to deal with them
license,
one at a time.
the one in charge of the
Critical
flight
hits are the only
is
way I can reliably
the
deal damage
flight
to them.
instructor sitting in the right
Critical
seat.
hits deal double damage, and
But
you
they're
only
not
have a
the captain
5% chance to
and
crit,
the
but with
student
fine
is not a
weakness,
first
it becomes
officer,
a 24%
so-
chance. That might sound extremely
case,
good already, but the double
he
damage
was
is
by,
applied
like,
before
pilot in
the
command,
enemy's protection
and,
value. So if your max damage is 51 and
you
your
wouldn't
opponent
really
has 50
consider it
PV,
second in
you will
command.
only ever be able to deal 1 damage because the rest
The
gets
one in charge of
negated.
the flight
But if you
is
crit,
called
suddenly
the
you'll
pilot in
swing for
command,
102
PIC.
damage and deal 52 damage.
Doesn't matter what
That's
seat
not double
they sit in.
damage,
I
that's
actually prefer to sit in the
52
right
times
seat
damage. So
for some
understandably,
planes
against
because
monsters
my
like
flight
steel
instructor
golems, having
training.
your chance to actually deal damage go from 1 in 20 to 1
I'm
in
with
4
my dominant
is,
arm and
pretty
using
good.
fuel on the left. I mean, it doesn't
That's
really
why you
matter. I'm
always play
100%
dark elves.
comfortable
Also,
in
they
both
have
seats.
alertness, a skill
But
which
you
lets
usually
dodge
learn in the
traps
left seat,
50%
like
of the time and dodge
99.999%
most
of the
magical
time.
attacks for
And you
free.
learn to
So yeah,
instruct,
going
and then
with
you
two of the
instruct
best
from the right
skills in the
seat.
game, regardless of your class, is
Being able to
pretty
fly from both
convenient.
sides is a very good skill
Anyway,
to
Dark
have.
Forge
It's
has
definitely
these
weird
rooms
the
filled
first
with
time, though.
weapons and armor. You mainly check for any red dragon scale mail or Eternium plate
Picture
armor,
changes
which is
slightly, your
extremely
muscle
useful for
memory
the
is
next
completely
challenge.
off.
But the main reason I'm here are
But
for
it's
these
pretty easily
tools.
transferable.
I can't make any progress without saving Califaster first, and the only way to do that is with an Amulet of Life Saving. It's an extremely rare item that you can play for hundreds of hours without seeing, but there is a way to get it, and that's wishing for it. But wishes don't come easy. To prepare, I switch to lawful alignment and sacrifice monsters until the god is very close to me. Also, there's this stupid cat I need to deal with. Getting your god very close will immediately reward you with the Lucky and Fate Smiles intrinsics.
Why are we
It will
burning so
also
much
allow us to
fuel?
remove any doomed and cursed intrinsics. With that, I'm ready to start chugging pools. Immediately, I'm doomed.
Should not be burning
Do
anywhere
not
near that
chug
much fuel.
pools while doomed. I don't have time to go into detail, but being doomed is bad. I run to the altar on the surface and cleanse myself, but then it's back to pools. Generally, drinking pools is a bad idea because the negative effects outweigh the positive, and suddenly I've lost the ability to control teleportation and I've become corrupted. Oh yeah,
I must have
corruption.
hit it by
While you're
accident.
playing, you're slowly being corrupted. The effects range from positive
why you
to
keep
benign
your
to
eye on these
literally
things, guys.
unplayable. If you reach 100% corruption, you die.
I must have
And then
nudged
asks
it
me
when
what I'd
reaching
like
for
to
my
wish
water.
for. And obviously
That
it's got to
fucked
be an
my fuel
amulet of
flow up. I
life-saving.
noticed we were burning a
I
little
got
bit
pretty
more
lucky
fuel than
here.
we
I
should
only
be, and I
got
looked at the
doomed
fuel
once and only
gauge,
had
and
to
it
drain
was
like 7
definitely not
pools.
as good.
Also, this is why I saved that
Got
blink
some more
dog corpse,
performance
because
out
I
of
knew
that
losing
too.
tele
The
control
engines
was a
were
major risk
underperforming because
of
of
pool
it.
chugging.
197 knots.
I save Calavaster by giving him the amulet, and he gives you some
Hey,
items in
hi,
return.
hi,
Most
Nay.
notably
How you
6
doing?
scrolls of corruption removal, which I use. Now that his fat butt isn't blocking the staircase, I can venture deeper through this massive graveyard
Are you
here,
over
and then
here?
this area that I need to dig
Hello,
through the wall
Nay.
to access.
How are
It's
you
a special
doing?
area with a boss holding the Chaos Orb of Water, one of the 5 that we'll need to unlock the final boss. I'm strong, so I take it out no problem. Also, it helps if you've eaten a spider corpse to get poison resistance. Then there's this level filled with corpses. You should have some beeswax from kicking a beehive, so use it to plug your ears because the Banshee will insta-kill you otherwise. Kill her, and now this is as deep as we can get because of an apparent wall of fire. Also, somehow I picked up a Wand of Wishing with 2 charges on it somewhere. This is a blessed run.
Turned on this,
We now need
but
to
I
go to
don't
the
know
surface
if
and
it's
tackle
working.
the Tower of Eternal Flames. It's the most challenging part of any run and makes or breaks most attempts.
The view too
Just to
wobbly for you
prepare, I
guys? Are
drop
you getting
anything
sick
that
from
isn't
it?
an artifact or made out of adamantium or better because they'll just melt.
Turned on like the
Things in my
smooth camera
backpack will be
setting,
protected
but
as
I
long as
don't
have a
know if I
fireproof
tuned it
blanket,
right.
but it's not foolproof. Rings are safe thanks to the elemental gauntlets covering them, but just standing inside this place
Quite
causes me
wobbly.
to constantly take heat damage with only 2 sources of fire resistance. Okay, while I go through here, hopefully you have some idea of how this game works by now, because what I really wanted to do in this video is complain. Adam has some of the most bizarre balancing. Half of the class abilities are blatantly worthless. We're playing a barbarian, and here's his abilities. This one's great, these are okay, but these take longer than attacking twice or thrice to deal double or triple damage. Yeah, it can help bypass high PV enemies, but if you miss, you're just standing there like an idiot for 4 turns. And if you need to bypass PV, you're probably fighting something strong and will probably die if it crits you twice while you're helpless. So against anything weak, you don't need it, and anything strong just kills you because you're committed to standing around after you inevitably miss. These are even better. True Berserker is when you remove all of your armor and change your tactics to Berserk, which reduces your defenses even further. It almost feels like a prank, like, hey, go take off all your armor and attack that monster, it'll be great, trust me. I swear I remember reading a million years ago that at least back in the of Adam couldn't even beat his own game, and maybe I hallucinated it because I couldn't find any sources for that, but it would explain so much. Like, here's the Weaponsmith. There's some alright abilities, but automatic metal type detection? You can tell what metal something is by how much it weighs. Every class can do that. At level 50, weapon damage identification. Let's ignore the fact that most characters don't even reach level 50 by the time they win, but even if you did, you're probably using an artifact weapon so you don't care. And even then you can just tell with a single scroll of Identify or just by holding it. Fire immunity at level 32. I mean, it's not worthless, but you'd want it before the Tower of Eternal Flames. And at level 32, you're probably gearing up to beat the game already. Which leads me to the fact that experience is kind of messed up because you'll be stuck in the 20s for about half the game, then suddenly shoot up to the 40s as soon as you can kill a certain 3 enemies. An Emperor Lich will give like 10,000 experience, but a Greater Moloch will give 150,000.
Should
and
be
yeah,
a bit
they're
better.
dangerous if you stand there, but they're so slow that you can hit them, walk backwards, and wait for them to move, and then hit them again.
Should be
They'll
a lot
never
better
get
now.
a swing in. And you know, hands down, the most dangerous
do
enemy
you
in the
think?
game. It's not an Emperor Lich, it's not the final boss, it's not even the secret final boss or the super secret
I thought I
final
tuned it
boss.
right,
It's a
but I guess
goddamn
it
ultimate
reset my
doppelganger.
settings.
They are indistinguishable from weaker doppelgangers and any other enemy that happens to share your color of Atmark, like cavemen in the case of barbarians. One lapse in concentration is all it takes for an endgame character to be instantly obliterated by one. They copy your DV and PV, your speed, always hit through your armor, and deal damage equal to 20% of your max HP. If that's not bad enough, they can still crit, and because the game is psychopathic, can spawn more experience and attack more than once in one turn. It is almost impossible to kill one in melee, so all you can do as a melee character is go coward and use a wand of fireballs until it dies. And what does the bane of my existence give? Like 5,000 experience. They used to be called Doppelganger Kings, and that tells me that the creator looked at one and was like, yeah, everything else is fine, but the name though? What's that? You want to hear about even more useless class abilities? Look no further than the Druid, because everything revolves around the overworld. You're only ever in the overworld to get from place to place. Being stronger but only in the wilderness is like having the ability to swim better but only when you're driving a car. And immunity to weather effects, there's only like one negative effect, and that's rain, which can ruin your scrolls, but a single cloak makes you immune, or even a waterproof blanket, which every run will eventually have, but apparently it's so good he thought the ranger and the elementalist should have it too. You might think that class abilities are just underwhelming, but no, look at the Archer. Every ability is incredible.
It's
Shooting
better?
faster, immune to enemy
Okay,
projectiles,
cool.
piercing armor, shooting through enemies. Now that's a level 50 ability. And compare that with the Thief, who can go invisible when he's next to a wall, even though every other class can get permanent invisibility from a relatively common item. And all the endgame enemies can see through invisibility anyway. Then there's the skills, and for every skill like Find Weakness, you have something like Gemology or Woodcraft, almost entirely worthless. Or Law, which is literally worthless because it only tells you that you did something unlawful after you've already done it. So even in the one instance where you're going for the Paragon of Law just to get the overpowered girdle at the end because you never did an unlawful act, it's still worthless. I could talk about this for literal hours going down the whole list. I'm going to try to contain my nerdiness, but I've wanted to complain about this stuff for over 20 years, and now I have an audience, so you're gonna carry this weight. Okay, so the Chaos Worm shows up, and thanks to my Ring of Mental Stability, I'm safe from his potentially devastating confusion attacks. I throw a Cursed Potion of Invisibility at him to blind him before backstabbing him multiple times. The Chaos Orb of Fire is excellent because it gives us +10 to Strength simply by holding it in the tool slot. Now I go northwest across these mountains and into this dungeon. At the bottom is this lake of killer fish. If you jump in, you will almost certainly die. Don't fight the Skeleton King without a Ring of Mental Stability either because he can confuse you and you'll wander helplessly into the water and die. Once he's dead, use a Wand of Cold to build a bridge across, but drop everything first or else you'll be too heavy and the ice will break. That'll get us the Ring of the High Kings. Back in the Caverns of Chaos, we can pass the Wall of Fire with the orb we just got, and then get past the Eternal Guardian standing on the stairs further below by wearing the ring from that lake. That leads us to the casino. Yes, the casino. The highlight is the shop filled with useless, overpriced garbage, and the ritual is to pick everything up, read a blessed scroll of Identify, and then drop it all in a corner so you can conveniently skim through it all. And yep, everything sucks, so moving on. Deeper in is this special level where we can find the Cat Lord. He's friendly and gives us what is essentially the best artifact in the entire game, because we didn't kill any cats. If we had, he'd be hostile and stronger for every cat we've killed. Avoiding them is harder than it sounds, and he will annihilate anyone who's unprepared.
Field burn situation.
But here's some things that he doesn't consider killing. Hiring someone else to kill them for you, repeatedly luring them over traps until they die,
there we
and
go. That's a good example of I don't know if you guys can see that.
Chaos, just to name.
But I was focusing so much on the inside, which you should. But seeing these lights right here, at the angle they're at, plus this over here, and me leaning in right here, made me think the aircraft was banking to the left. It almost looks like we're flying down into the ground and banking to the left when actually we're not. That's called spatial disorientation. That's your mind expecting something different. Oh, here we go. 13265.
132.65 for Charlie Uniform Mike.
13265.
Albuquerque Center, November 69er Charlie Uniform Mike 11,000 feet.
November 69er Charlie Uniform.
3012.
Center altimeter 30.12. Continue to Charlie November X-ray as planned.
3012. Change the altimeter setting. There we go.
Spirit Wings 111 tree climb and maintain flight level.
Name a few. Doesn't matter if it used to be a cat, that's all good. Anyway, I could probably start beating the game right now, but I'm going
See, it almost looks like we're pointing down and bank to the left because of the angle of that road.
Which I abuse to get more
But
wilderness
clearly
encounters
not.
to find
According to our
giant
instruments, we
boars.
are not losing
I killed them
altitude.
until
We are
one
not
dropped the
changing
skull.
our heading.
Then I need
Our
to switch alignments,
attitude
so I dig up some
indicator
graves
is
for free stuff
telling
and
us we're
obliterate
straight and
some
level. Our
innocent
airspeed
beaches
isn't
until I'm
changing, so we're
chaotic.
not
And
descending.
with that, I can now talk to the demented
Vertical
rat
speed
lady.
isn't doing
He wants
anything. Our
6
altitude isn't
artifacts, and I've
decreasing.
got
There's a lot of
plenty
different
trash
ways you can
artifacts
check,
that sort of known with me
cross-check.
to feed him. He tells us the secret of how to get into the stone circle, but I'll do that later. Now I go to the mountain village and talk to Baba
A lot of
Yaga.
different ways
If
you
you're
can
not chaotic, you
cross-check to
can't do
make
these
sure that what
quests.
you
He
see
wants the skull, then a
matches
scroll
up
of
with
danger,
what
and some
your
other things I've been
aircraft is
holding on to
actually
just for
doing.
this. It's best to do these quests earlier because it's difficult to change
In
your
that
alignment
case, one of my
towards lawful if you're
instruments
high
is faulty.
level.
If
That
you need to
gives us
check
the
your
Medal of
altitude, you can
Chaos.
check the
It corrupts us
altimeter.
by just having it
Okay.
in our inventory, so we'll
If
just
you
stash it
think
away
you're
for
in
later.
if you think you're in a descent, you can
so I drop everything and offer
obviously
one
check if
coin
your
at a time
altitude's
to a
decreasing.
neutral altar.
If you suspect that
Because
might
the
be
gods are
broken, you
angry
can
at me, they try
cross-check
to
that.
obliterate all my
Should always be
equipment, but I'm carrying
cross-checking
nothing but artifacts, so I'm
all of
safe
your
to slowly
instruments.
raise my
You should have a
alignment.
flow.
Eventually, I'm
Usually,
back to
some
lawful,
people's
and soon
flow
enough, lawful
goes
plus.
here,
It's
attitude,
like those murders
then
never
altitude.
happened.
Attitude,
Next, I
airspeed.
drop my
Attitude,
inventory on
heading.
level 40 and dig
Attitude,
my way
bank.
in here.
Attitude, vertical
Inside is the
speed,
air temple
back
and
to
the master
attitude.
summoner.
Some people
As his name
do a
implies, he
flow,
summons
like
things,
a
which can range
circular
from
motion,
goblins to a
where
dozen
you'll start
ultimate
here.
doppelgangers and emperor
Okay, altitude looks
witches.
good,
Sometimes
vertical
we just
speed looks
get
good,
really
heading isn't
unlucky.
changing.
We didn't, so we
Bank
dive
is
and drop
good,
the orb of air.
coordinated,
I
and
grab
our
all my
airspeed isn't
stuff again
changing.
and immediately
If
hit
you
the
were in a
Earth
descent,
symbol. Everything here walks
generally
through
your
walls, which
altitude
is
would be
bad if you let
decreasing.
yourself be
Your vertical
surrounded,
speed
but we
would
kill
tell
the
you
ancient
you're going
stone beast
down.
and get the orb of
Your
the
attitude
Earth.
indicator
I
would
also
have a
eat its
negative
corpse.
degree,
It massively
and your
corrupts me,
airspeed
but
would
as a
be
melee fighter,
increasing.
the strength and toughness
If you
it
think
gives
you're
is
in a
worth it.
if you're in a
And can I
bank,
just say how absolutely
your
deranged
attitude-
the player is? You can just
if you
go
see your
around
heading
devouring
changing,
everything.
bank
Rats,
indicator,
goblins, humans, anything's fair
your
game
banking,
to this
your
guy.
turn
You can eat
coordinator
an entire
telling you
titan
you're in a
and
bank,
still
but your
not be
heading isn't changing,
satisfied.
then your
Even a
gyro's
paragon
probably
of
broken
log
because
is
these are
consume
gyroscopic
abandoned right in front of
driven.
all his friends like
There's a
it's
vacuum
nothing.
pump
All of
in
your
there.
calories are
There's a
forced
vacuum
into
pump in
this
the
guy.
aircraft that
Whatever.
pretty much
Down here, I get
spins
the
this.
message you feel truly excited, and doing a
using
monster
vacuum
detection
pressure.
reveals it's a greater undead vault. Do not attempt to do one of these. The artifacts are not worth losing half of your stats to liches. Here's another vault. It's red dragons. Feel free to do these, and that gets you
Does
up
it
to
ever
level
simulate
30.
instrument failure? Yeah, you can
I
make
go to
it
the
simulate it
infested
randomly
and kill all these
flight,
greater claw
or you
bugs.
can make it
I make it look
like
easy, but
happen
these
at a
things will
specific
shred
time
you
across
apart
your
and dodge
flight.
every attack
I
without an
were
extremely
to
high hit chance. Inside,
open
I
up
change
this-
my tactic to coward and wand of fireballs them to death. Make sure you summon doors in all these
I
gaps
can click
because
this
bugs
iPad
can't open doors. I need to kill tons
and
of killer
go
bugs, and walking into
to
this place apparently killed
options.
so many noobs that the developer blocked off this whole
Failures,
area until you've
rarely,
died a total of 100
occasionally, and
times.
frequently.
Inside the main room
That's
is a
your
bunch
fortress?
of
No,
statues.
that's,
We kick them apart and we get some useful items.
called again?
What I'm
Adom.
after are the 8 scrolls of magic mapping hidden
Old
in one.
roguelike called
With
Adom.
those, I head over to the Minotaur maze, which closes
Oscar
after level
Jones,
30.
hi.
This isn't required, but I want the reward at the bottom. Okay, so to me, the appeal of roguelikes is that it's more about learning the game rather than memorizing it, and I think that concept will
Let me
be
check my
compelling no
controller
matter where it
batteries.
crops up. When the original Rogue was developed for Unix machines in 1980, the procedural generation was more of a concession or a sort of soft workaround to the severe memory limitations of computers at the time.
Here we go.
You
Yeah,
simply
the
couldn't
battery
fit a
level's
bunch of
perfect.
handmade levels into it. But if instead you left enough room in memory to hold one level at a time, as well as an algorithm
I have it
capable
set
of
to no
creating new
failures. I
levels
could
on
set
the
it
fly,
to rare
well, they
failures, but
inadvertently
I'd
stumbled upon
rather
a
not.
very
I'd rather
powerful
just do this
gameplay
flight.
mechanic. I'm not really a journalist. I'm just some nerd who talks about
Keep
video
your cross
games,
check up,
so I'm
though.
not going to split hairs about the fact that
Make sure
Beneath Apple
everything's
Manor
good.
was maybe
Because
a
earlier I
roguelike 2
nudged the
years
mixture
before Rogue was actually created.
accident,
But the
and I
important
fucked
thing is
my
that
fuel
each one
flow
of
up.
Rogue would be unique,
And I didn't
in
notice
a way
until
that
like
would
a
keep
minute
people
later,
playing.
but I noticed
Its
it at all
concession
because
for
I was
space would end up
cross-checking everything
becoming its
constantly.
most powerful asset.
Stay
Now, Rogue was
diligent.
stuck on mainframe
Not every
computers
issue is
for a
because of a
while, which
failure.
limited
Could
its
be
reach to
pilot
mostly
error.
university students.
And most
But
things
eventually
are,
it
actually.
spread, and because it appealed to nerds, those
do
nerds
extreme
ended up
weather?
spawning
Yeah.
their own takes on the idea with games like
How does
Hack and
autopilot work?
Gloria, which were, you know, kind of
Every
like Rogue.
autopilot works extremely
Hack was a
positive.
direct fork of Rogue.
Differently, but this one, two are linked together, and it has to the and its altitude data. Some of them measure altitude by themselves, but this is getting navigational data from the autopilot. Well, from the GPS here, telling it what heading it needs to fly and how it should correct for. Basically, there's like, I think on the Cessna 310, there's electrical motors that are linked to the actual flight control surfaces, the linkages cables, and it can tension them and change them. Well, there's also an electric motor in the trim right here that it can control. It can control the pitch trim. Same with the aileron and rudder trim. It all depends. It's every aircraft's different, but generally it's a system of motors and servos hooked up to the linkages that go from the flight controls, which would be the yoke right here, to the flight surfaces. You know, flyer little. Damn, it's so dim. Wish there was a way to have the wings lit. Yeah. Extend these out. There, now we have the wing lights on. See? So it uses the interpretation to tell the altitude and I wouldn't say longitude, no. But it gets every system works different and I've never really deep dove into how actual autopilots function. Have auto red and green lights, they are on the ends, so let me show you. That would be the strobe lights right here, or the nav lights. Let me turn this off and then retract it. Let's go outside the plane real quick. Oh shit, I just rewound the video. Let's fix that. I don't even know where we were. But I need to tab back into the game. So let's do this. See? There's the red light, and then there's the strobe lights on the end. There's the... Yeah. So I can actually go down here. Extend the taxi, extend the landing lights. Share, there they are. Yep. They're on a little flat, sort of like old cars, the Corvettes. This plane was made in the 80s, keep that in mind. I actually set it to be different time of day, you can probably see it a bit better. Let's change the time of day. One second, I'm trying to fix this goddamn... Can it please move this entire fucking thing over? There we go, Jesus. Okay, so the Oculus app recentering everything is so annoying. Okay, so I click N. Little landing lights are there. If I go inside real quick and flip those down, I go back, actually see them retract on the wings. And slowly go back. That way there's less drag on them that way. Now let's go back to real time. Back to nighttime. You guys wake? Does the noise wake you guys up? Sorry, Hannah. Hi. God, I'm going to have an aneurysm with this. Let me check something. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, Lawman's playing Foxhole. I'm missing Foxhole. What's Aki doing? We're gonna see what our friends are doing. What are they doing? A game quiz or something? What the hell is Sora doing too? Moon's playing Wrestling Empire! Okay, I'm gonna share my sub. Oh, Moon's, no, he's off. He's there. He's not there right now. Okay. Oh, I need to watch this VOD. Fuck. I need to watch this VOD now. Let's see her. Saloon night. Okay. Let's go back to the dashboard. Where are we flying from? We are flying from Las Vegas to Austin, Texas, so we're going pretty much across the country. Bro, can no bots ever fucking follow me? Cause my follower count is going down, dog. Grr. Oh, thanks CowCow for the follow. Funny timing. Alrighty, let's go back to the video.
Immediately, I'm doomed.
Actually, fuck this video. I wanna watch
Today I'm
this.
gonna try to make a whole pizza for just $1.
We're watching food
But I
videos
have
now.
a few rules that I want to follow for this challenge. The first is that I'm only gonna count the actual ingredients that I use. So if I buy a whole bag of flour, for example, which I will have to, I'm only gonna count the quantity that I actually use. With that said though, I'm not gonna buy things in
that's
massive
cheating, though.
industrial
That's
sized
cheating.
quantities that the average home cook wouldn't buy. I'm only gonna be shopping at everyday grocery stores. And really there are two places
I
that
actually
think I'm
want
gonna
to
find
do
the
this.
best
I want to
deals.
do this. I want to make a pizza so bad. I want a pizza oven so badly. When I get the money from the HelloFresh sponsorship, I think I'm gonna buy a pizza oven. One of those Oni
So
pizza
at
ovens.
Walmart, I started in the baking aisle. And considering that flour will make up the majority of this recipe, that was my first priority. So
I have to break on 200 knots, guys.
purpose that I
200
usually
knots.
use is about $9.98 for 10 pounds. Whereas
For
the
those of you that don't
Walmart
know,
brand
100 Alexa,
is $4.34
197 times
for 10 pounds.
1.15.
Very big difference. Now they also had some Walmart,
We're going
aka Great Value
226
brand bread
miles per hour
flour,
right
which
now.
would have a slightly higher protein content than all-purpose, but it was also nearly
226
double the
miles per
price,
hour.
so I didn't bother with
Yeah.
that. Then next I hit the sugar section, and for me, I've
do
never
you buy?
noticed the difference between name brands versus also nearly double the price, so I didn't bother with that. Then next I hit the sugar section, and for me, I've never noticed the difference between name brands versus generic when it comes to sugar. So I picked up the Walmart.
Sugar is
and
sugar, isn't it?
shopping at everyday grocery stores. And
hard
really,
to
there are
fuck up
two
a
places
literal
that
pure,
I think I'm gonna
like,
find the best deals.
Didn't roll.
So at Walmart, I started in the baking aisle. And considering that flour will make up the majority of this recipe, that was my first priority. So this King Arthur all-purpose that I usually use is about $9.98 for 10 pounds, whereas the Walmart brand here is $4.34 for 10 pounds. Very big difference. Now they also had some Walmart, aka Great Value brand bread flour.
Well,
which
I
would
know
have a
that,
slightly
Hannah,
higher
but, like, for
protein
generic
content than
sugar.
all-purpose, but it was also nearly double the price, so I didn't bother with that. Then next I
Is
hit
there
the
no such
sugar
thing as
section,
generic sugar?
and for me, I've never noticed the difference between name brands versus generic when it comes to sugar. So I picked up the Walmart Great Value brand for a little less than 5 cents per ounce. This isn't sponsored by Walmart, by the way. I have no affiliation with them, but they do have some pretty good deals sometimes. Same thing with salt. The brand shouldn't really matter. So I just grabbed the cheapest non-iodized salt I could find. Then to finish off the dough ingredients, I grabbed some instant yeast, and I went with the jar rather than the packets because it's just a better value. Anyways, after that, it was time for the fun part, starting with the tomatoes. So they have the red pack that I often get. $1.96. They're not my favorites these days, but they are pretty good. But if I go with the Walmart brand, get them for $1.52. So I think I'm
So
gonna
they're
go with
basically
this for
making a
today.
Walmart pizza. They're making a
Now, time for the
Walmart
hardest
pizza.
part,
Let's go.
cheese. And when it comes to pizza cheese, I'm usually looking for one main thing, and that is a good low moisture mozzarella, preferably whole milk mozzarella as opposed to part skim. That might be pushing it a bit for this challenge since whole milk mozzarella is usually pretty hard to find. So first I checked out the deli section, and they had lots of nice cheeses like cheddar, Swiss, Munster, and Colby Jack, but they were all around like $7 a pound or more. They even had some fresh mozzarella, but still none of the low moisture stuff that I was looking for. So next I headed to what I call the mass-produced cheese section, which is where you'll find all the name brand stuff, string cheeses, low-quality pre-shredded cheeses, and so on. But that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is the generic whole block cheeses. And sure enough, my old friend Great Value came through for me yet again. First I found a 2-pound pack of low-moisture mozzarella for just $3.66 a pound, but as I kept looking, I then found a 1-pound pack for $3.68 a pound, which to me, to not have to buy 2 whole pounds of cheese, was worth the extra 2 cents a pound. Now it is part skim mozzarella, but for this challenge, I was happy just to find any decent looking mozzarella at a reasonable price. And they actually had several other cheeses to choose from at that exact same $3.68 per pound price point. So I also picked up some Monterey Jack, which I may try blending in with my mozzarella to add some extra flavor. But just as I was about to leave, feeling pretty satisfied, I found one more thing.
Go to your bed. 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 Go to Hero.
milk mozzarella. This must be new because
Go.
I wasn't able to find this when I was doing my New York style pizza series. Definitely seems to be like a little moister than your typical low moisture cheese. It actually doesn't say whether it is low moisture. It doesn't seem to be like
He thinks I'm
fully
trying to play with
fresh
him.
though. So
Hero,
we'll
go to
give
your
it a
bed.
try. So I got some fairly decent deals
Stop
here at
fucking me.
Walmart, but I didn't want to stop quite yet. There was still one other store I wanted to pay a visit to, which I think I may have
Stepping out of the
even
plane
better
for a
luck
second.
at.
Here, go on your bed. Sit.
So at Aldi, I first looked at the
Wait.
flour, and it's about the same price as
There we go.
Walmart, so I'll
This-
pass.
he was
Sugar,
around the
same
other- they
deal,
brought
but
up
salt,
dolls and
wow,
spaghetti
this is
in the
pretty
way.
cheap. Just 64 cents for the same size pack that I paid $1.46 for at Walmart. This Aldi salt is iodized though, and for making dough, I prefer to use a pure salt. They do have good deals on oil as well, which could be a way to take this pizza dough to the next level, but I want to make this as cheap as
Yeah, I
possible,
wanna-
so I'm gonna pass on that too. But give it a try.
I'm
So I got some
genuinely
fairly
super
decent
interested in
deals
this.
here at Walmart, but I didn't want to stop quite yet. There was still style pizza series. Definitely seems again mozzarella, but for this challenge, I was happy just to find any decent looking mozzarella at a reasonable price. And they actually had several other cheeses to choose from at that exact same $3.68 per pound price point. So I also picked up some Monterey Jack, which I may try blending in with my mozzarella to add some extra flavor. But just as I was about to leave, feeling pretty satisfied, I found one more thing. Whole milk mozzarella. This must be new because I wasn't able to find this when I was doing my New York style pizza series. Definitely seems to be like a little moister than your typical low moisture cheese. It actually doesn't say whether it is low moisture. It doesn't seem to be like fully fresh though, so we'll give it a try. So I got some fairly decent deals here at Walmart, but I didn't want to stop quite yet. There was still one other store I wanted to pay a visit
Came
to,
right
which
back to
I
my
think I
legs.
may
Nero,
have even
nuh-uh.
better luck at.
American 247, this is
So at Aldi, I first looked at the flour, and it's about the same price as Walmart, so I'll pass. Sugar, same deal, but salt, wow, this is pretty cheap. Just 64 cents for the same size pack that I paid $1.46 for at Walmart. This Aldi salt is iodized though, and for making dough, I prefer to use a pure salt. They do have good deals on oil as well, which could be a way to take this pizza dough to the next level, but I want to make this as cheap as possible, so I'm gonna pass on that too. But in this same aisle is something that I forgot to look for at Walmart, and that is some Often I'll use things like oregano, thyme, or garlic powder in my pizza sauce, but in order to pack the most flavor in without buying a bunch of different spices, I think I'll just go with this Italian seasoning. Now heading over to the sauce aisle, it looks like my luck here at Aldi might be changing. They have a can of crushed tomatoes for just $1.39, even cheaper than the $1.52 that I paid at Walmart. So I'll get a couple cans of these and then head to the cheese. So it looks like as far as the base, it really doesn't have anything cheaper than Walmart. If anything, it's about the same price. I don't know how the quality will compare, but
Losing
if I
money
did
on
wanna
the
kinda
drive over to
upgrade this
Aldi from
pizza a little
Walmart
bit with
though.
some different cheeses though, this would be a good place. They have like this Havarti, which is about the same price as mozzarella. We got Monterey Jack, cheddar, Asiago, a lot of sort of different cheeses. For this challenge though, I think I want to stick with the basics. I think I will get this Havarti. Also got some sliced provolone, but I think it should help me to upgrade this pizza a little bit without spending too much more. So let's get started. And now that we got all of our ingredients, we can work on this recipe. So this is something I use for most of my pizza recipes, especially when I'm doing my pizza pop-ups. And it's also something that you'll get access to if you join my dough mastery workshop. But basically what it is number one, it's a recipe spreadsheet. I've also got a testing log on here so I can track my experimentation and my results. And then I have a sheet where I can track my ingredients. And once I've got the costs entered here for the specific ingredient that I use, I can change the pizza size, change the topping amounts, dough recipe, and it'll automatically calculate the new cost to make that pizza. So what I'm gonna start with here is a 13-inch pizza. If I can make it bigger, I will, but obviously that would also make the pizza more expensive. We'll just start with a generic recipe here. My main flour in this case is going to be all-purpose. We'll start with 65% hydration, 2.5% salt, 0.5% yeast, no diastatic malt powder just to save on cost. But instead, to help with the browning, I am going to use a little bit of sugar. I'll start with 2%. Even though that adds a little bit to the cost, I really think it's going to make a big difference, because in a home oven when you're baking at lower temperatures, it helps to have something to help with that browning. Now I'll also start with just my standard topping amounts. Based on my New York style recipe, this is a medium sauce, medium cheese. Now what I have to do is enter all of my ingredients that I bought and the cost of each one. And it's all pretty straightforward. You just take the price you paid for the ingredient and then enter the weight in grams of that ingredient, which is always going to be listed on the package. And the spreadsheet will calculate the price per gram that you're paying. And then it'll also give you the price per. based on how many grams you're using on this recipe
But
spreadsheet.
I need a pizza oven. I need a fucking pizza
So that
oven,
brings
dude.
my dough cost
I've been like
so
staring at
far
my
to
normal
only
oven, like
26
tempted to
cents.
buy a
That's pretty
pizza
good.
stone
But of
or a
course,
pizza.
the cheese is usually the most expensive part
whatever
of the
the pizza
pizza.
iron
So let's see
is.
what we're working with. So
Pizza
that's already
steal.
$1
I
worth
want
of
to
cheese
make
for
pizza
one
so
pizza,
badly.
which brings us to $1.27. I do want to keep this under $1, so I'll probably mess with the amount of cheese that I use. But before I start messing with the recipe, let's input the rest of the things. And of course, you don't have to add the sugar or Italian seasoning to the sauce, for example, but that's just something that I think is going to take it to the next level without adding too much cost. But as we can see, I've got everything entered into the spreadsheet here. Let me just hide these extra rows. And the pizza is already up to $1.50. I mean, definitely not bad, but I really want to get this under $1. Now, I mean, really the main limiting factor here is the cheese. I mean, we've got $1 worth of mozzarella on here. But again, like we talked about before, this is based on medium cheese and medium sauce, which some people might like, but actually when I make this pizza for myself, I usually go with low cheese and medium sauce, which brings us down to 103 grams of cheese, down from 121, which is only going to cost me 85 cents as opposed to $1. Still a little bit higher than where I want to be. So let me take another look here. All right, yeah, I mean 97 grams, we'll start with that. I think it's going to be more of like a margarita pizza where, you know, definitely a lot more sauce than cheese. But personally, again, that's kind of how I like it. If it really doesn't work out, we can change that. But one other thing I'm thinking of, but the higher the hydration we go, the less the dough is going to cost us to make because it's more water as opposed to actual dough. What happens if we bring it up to 70% hydration? That only brings the dough cost down by 1 cent. So it's not really a super effective way to reduce the cost. Just performance-wise, I do kind of like around a 70% hydration for this style of pizza that I'm going to make. So I think that's what I'll go with. However, with all that, I'm still at $1.26. So let's see if we try bringing it down to 11 inches. All right, 11 inches. That gets us down to 88 cents. So let's see how big we can make this. 11 and a half, 97 cents. You know, I'm happy with that. I'm not going to do like 11.625 inches. We'll just go with 11 and a half. But I'll also make a few dough balls so that I can play around with the different ratios of cheese to
Is
sauce.
StreamPad
just in
on?
case this turns out to be way too little cheese, or even if I can reduce it further.
StreamPad is a
and maybe
thing
make
I'm
a bigger
helping
pizza. So let's
develop
get
for Fillion. I'm making the avatar side of the integration, which I should not be on though. Settings. Oh, it is on. What the fuck? No one told me. It's been on for like 10 streams. No one told me. Deactivate. There we go.
Get started. Now, let's make this dough. And to make the dough, I'm following a pretty standard process. So I'll take my Great Value flour and add it to
Big
a bowl
studio over
along
there to
with
the
my
left.
yeast, salt, and sugar, before adding my water, again at a hydration level of 70%. Then I'll give that a good thorough stir with my dough whisk, and a few little kneads with my hand like so, until everything is fully incorporated. Then I'll just cover that and let it rest for about 30 minutes to allow the gluten to start to develop, at which point it'll be a lot easier to work with. So I'll give it a few more kneads in the bowl, and since it isn't an extremely high hydration, I can also bring it out to my counter for a few kneads as well. Once it gets a little too sticky,
Yeah, it's a
I'll just
virtual
transfer
controller
it to
for
a
Twitch chat.
separate
Sorry, I didn't
clear
explain what it was.
container, and I'll let it
It
rest there
basically
for
allows
about
you
another 30 minutes.
for
And by
Twitch
this
chat to
point,
use
the
a
dough
little
is nice
gamepad
and
on the
smooth,
screen,
and it's just barely
and
risen by about
it
10
will
to
send
maybe
the
25%.
inputs
So I'm gonna
to
go ahead
something
and transfer
in
it
VR
right to my
chat,
fridge.
like a
Then
drone.
about
and
24
stuff like
hours
that.
later,
That's
I'll
what
bring
we're
it
currently
back
working
out
on.
so that I can ball it up
Running into some
before
issues
returning
with
it
it,
to the
but
fridge for the rest of
it's
the
on my end,
fermentation.
not
This
theirs.
is generally the process I like to follow for sort of mid-hydration doughs like this, which is something that I get into a lot more detail in my new Pizza Dough Mastery workshop, which, in case you haven't heard me talk about it yet, is a dough handling workshop that I've been working on for a little while. It's actually launching right now. In fact, the first lessons just went live today. In it, I basically walk through the entire dough making process, from the recipe to the fermentation to the shaping and stretching techniques, in order to help you avoid all the most common dough making mistakes. So I won't go into a ton of detail here because I've already talked about it on the channel. I'll leave the link below, but if you do want to get in on the live Q&A for everyone who signs up within the first week of the workshop, you only have about 3 days left as of the filming of this video. The recording of the workshop will still be available after, but you just won't have the opportunity to get your personalized questions answered. Anyways, like I've said, after I balled up the dough and put it into the fridge for another 24 hours, I'll bring it back out and let it warm up to room temperature to get ready for baking, at which point we can work on the sauce. But we need to start by figuring out which brand of tomatoes we're going to use. And originally I was just gonna do a taste test of my 2 budget brands compared to the brand that I usually use, just to see how they stack up. But it's been a while since I've done one of these tomato taste tests. You might have seen the last one during my New York style pizza series.
Yeah,
but that
Twitch
was
chat could
filmed
totally control
over
the
a year
game with
ago.
walking and stuff like that.
I found a lot of
100%.
new good tomato brands since then. So
I've
these
already
are
done
all
stuff like
mixed
that,
up,
but
so I have
this
no
is something
idea which
specific
is
for
which.
a
And they've
drone.
all also been blended just
systems
to get them
designed
all to
around
the
the
same
actual drone.
consistency. But the
But
brands
I've
I'm
already
using
made
here
systems where
are,
people
of course,
can
my 2 brands in
do
question:
redeems and
Great
control the
Value, which is
streamer
Walmart
in
brand,
your
and
chat.
Happy Harvest, which is the Aldi brand. Jersey Fresh, Alta Cucina, which are my current favorites. Cento all-in-ones, Bianco di Napoli whole peeled tomatoes, and Sclafani. And I have my labels on the bottoms of all these containers, and I'm gonna rank them from best on this side to worst on this side. And prevent cross-contamination here. Those are not that good. Already I'm gonna assume this is one of the budget brands. Definitely not my favorite. Pretty sure these are the Alta Cucinas. This is what I use for my pop-ups, and actually at the pizzeria I work at, we recently started using these too. So maybe it's just my personal taste, but I really like the flavor of these. Super bright. It's got a nice balance between the acidity and the sweetness. They are a little liquidy, but by the time they're baked down on the pizza, it brings them to the perfect consistency in my opinion. So let's just make sure that we got this lineup dialed in. Yeah, I mean, no question, these are the Alta Cucinas. For me personally, these are a little more acidic, a little more flavorful, so I'm gonna put these at number 3. These 2 to me are definitely the best. I mean, Alta Cucinas to me are like the perfect tomato. These ones have a really nice real tomato taste to them, and pretty bright, flavorful as well. Nice balance between the sweetness and the acidity. And this one, similar flavor profile to this, but I would say just a little bit more tamed down. This one I would say is exactly middle of the road. I wouldn't quite put it in the low tier, but I also wouldn't put it in the high tier. It's kind of diluted, but it has a good flavor balance, and if I had to use these, I'd be pretty happy with them. After tasting these again though, these 2 are definitely in a tier of their own, being the worst. They just have that really artificial, just really diluted,
Definitely
not
the
great taste
worst.
to them. And while this one isn't quite as bad, it's definitely not my favorite. So I feel pretty confident in this lineup. Let's see what we're working with. Just as I expected, Alta Cucina. See what this one is. Interesting. So this is the Cento all-in-ones. And I had said in a previous video that was my favorite retail brand. I also recently said I like Jersey Fresh, so we'll see where that comes in. Interesting. So this is actually the Happy Harvest, the Aldi brand. And that was the cheapest of all of these tomatoes. So that's actually a surprisingly nice result there. Came in at $1.39 a can. Yeah, and they've got a really nice flavor to them. So let's see what this middle option is here. Bianco di Napoli, alright. I expected those to be pretty high up. The main disadvantage being they are really expensive, usually between like $4 to $5 a can. Not quite as acidic as some of these other options, but if you really want something a little bit sweeter and just, again, with that real tomato taste, these are
I'm
pretty good
shopping at
options.
Aldi now for
Yeah,
tomatoes.
so these are the Jersey Fresh. I guess testing them side by side with the rest of these, they're not like amazing tier tomatoes, but at the same time, I'm comparing these with the best of the best that I found, so could still definitely use these on a pizza and be satisfied. These 2, however, I definitely wouldn't recommend using. First one, Sclafani. Interesting. This is another one that a while ago I mentioned that I liked at one point. I did notice they had a lot of seeds in them, which was kind of my main gripe, and maybe that's where I'm getting kind of that weird artificial kind of bitterness to them. Some people say when you blend seeds into a sauce you get some bitterness. I really wasn't detecting that in any of these, but maybe just because these had so many seeds, that's what it did. Now the worst of them all, Great Value, Walmart brand. Kind of what you'd expect, I think. I was surprised that the Aldi ones were so much better, but I mean, it's Walmart, so don't get me wrong. I mean,
You could try
Walmart has a
Aldi
lot of good
chocolate.
deals,
I don't even like
but the
chocolate.
Great Value brand.
Maybe
feel
I
like
should
can be
try
kinda
Aldi
hit or
chocolate
miss
then if I
sometimes.
don't like
So
chocolate.
anyways, with all that, I'm
I'll give it a
very
shot. When I go
curious
buy
to see
these
how these
tomatoes, I'll
Aldi
maybe go buy
tomatoes
some
work out
Aldi
on the
chocolate.
pizza. So let's make some sauce. And the sauce
Just a
really couldn't be
little
too
bit.
much simpler to make. I'm just gonna use a raw, sort of New York inspired sauce. So I'm taking my Aldi tomatoes and just adding 5 grams of salt, 12 grams of sugar, and 1.5 teaspoons of my Italian seasoning, and then blending that all up. And that's all there is to it. This will last for at least a few days in the fridge, so I'm gonna throw it in there until I'm ready to use it. And at this point, the only thing we still need to figure out is the cheese. And for that,
We're gonna try
I need to do a little
best
testing.
taste medium chunky sauce. Okay, I'll buy some. I like getting, whenever I go to a party, I get chips and salsa. I'll try their salsa then. pizza. I want it. I want it. Order a pizza after this chat. I'm ordering a pizza when stream's over. I've texted.
Alright, so I've got one
successfully,
pizza in the
like,
oven already, but before
hypnotized
we talk
myself
about
into
this
into
process,
buying
we need to
pizza.
talk about the cheese, because that's the one thing we haven't covered yet. And if you remember from my New York style pizza series, you know that there are a few different types of mozzarella. Number one, there's low moisture versus fresh. For more New York style pizzas, we typically want to use low moisture, but there's another pretty significant distinction, and that is between part skim mozzarella versus whole milk mozzarella. And just as you might expect, whole milk mozzarella has a much richer consistency and a lot better flavor. It's actually quite a bit bigger difference than you might even expect. So I was really lucky that at Walmart I was able to find a whole milk mozzarella.
It's been 3
but
hours
what I noticed about
since
it as
we
I started
started
grading
flying.
it,
A little bit more actually. Gotta swap the fuel tanks over. Alright, let's swap these tanks over. Let's put the fuel pumps on.
Southwest 262 tree climb.
There we go.
2290 climb and maintain flight level 300.
We have about 40 gallons left. On each. Well, 40 pounds left. So 80 pounds, 40 pounds. That's a little less than an hour when we would swap them. So we have 180 per engine. So 180 at 70. Right. It's 62 pounds per hour. Alexa, 180 divided by 60. That's 3 hours on this tank left. Alexa, 1 hour timer. We'll swap them over in an hour. We'll swap the timer over in an hour. Waypoint info. Airport.
American 2290 descend and maintain flight level 300. Southwest 262 tree climb and maintain flight level.
Ooh, we're actually close. 400 miles left, 200 miles. So we're about 2 hours out. We're about 2 hours out, chat. Okay, so we might not even have to swap the engine over. We'll swap it over for 30 minutes and then swap it back. Okay, cool. We're getting close. We're a little over 2 hours away. Let's look at the flight plan.
American 2290 descend and maintain flight level 300.
Damn. Let's zoom out on that. Let's
Frontier flight
do
101
north
descend
up.
and maintain flight level 300.
We're more than halfway, chat. Look at that.
And maintain
We're
flight
making
level 300.
distance. We started here. We've traveled all of this distance, and now we're over to here.
Southwest 262 tree climb and maintain flight level
Look at how
390.
dark out it is. Jeez.
Frontier flight 1201 descend and maintain flight level 30. Climb and maintain flight level 390 Southwest 262 tree.
Go heading up. What's the nearest airport's elevation? 9 miles away. Elevation is 3,500 feet. So we are
American 2290 descend and maintain flight level 30.
7,500 feet above ground level right now. Okay. Awesome. Oh, what are you guys saying? Okay, I'm sorry. I've been watching the video until now.
And maintain flight level 300.
Flaps down, climb with 7 to a. Oh, jeez. Slow flight into a stall. Okay. Well, you wouldn't want to climb in slow flight. That would stall the plane. Yeah, that would. Well, all flaps down. No, we could totally climb. It would be very. We'd be going very slow airspeed wise, but this thing has the power to climb with all flaps down. It would be very unhappy about it, but it would work. You would never want to do that though. It's been a month. You're in Vegas. No, I'm not actually in Vegas. I'm escaping from Vegas. The flight in this is from Vegas to Austin. I'm not actually escaping from Vegas. Oh my god. People actually thought I was stuck in Vegas still when I made the tweet.
Is that it definitely had more of a fresh feel to it. I mean, it wasn't like quite as soft.
I've always
as a
wondered
fresh
what that part of
mozzarella,
the
but it
grater
definitely
was
wasn't
for.
as rigid and low moisture as mozzarella. Now, of course, I was also able to find your typical part skim mozzarella, and they were about the same price. So I guess I'm saying all this to say, this first pizza that I baked is really just a comparison between part skim mozzarella, and they were about the same price. Part skim mozzarella versus
Okay, it's back to normal, it looks like. Escaping from the Vegas Authority. I got into a debt while I was in Vegas, so I took out an even bigger loan and bought this airplane, and now I'm going to fly it to Austin and crash it and parachute out and pretend that I never bought it, obviously.
versus whole milk mozzarella. And just as you might expect, whole milk mozzarella has a much richer consistency and a lot better flavor. It's actually quite a bit bigger difference than you might even expect. So I was really lucky that at Walmart I was able to find a whole milk mozzarella. But what I noticed about it as I started grading it is that it definitely had more of a fresh feel to it. I mean, it wasn't like quite as soft as a fresh mozzarella, but it definitely wasn't as rigid and low moisture as your typical low moisture mozzarella.
So
now, of
like
course, I was also able to find your typical part skim mozzarella, and they were about the same price. So I guess I'm saying all this to say, this first pizza that I baked is really just a comparison between those two different
it looks
cheeses.
so
So that
good.
once I determine
It
which
looks
one I like
so
better,
good.
I can build my final cheese blend around that. And as we wait for this to cool, let's just talk about the other cheeses that I was able to find. Unfortunately, they all ended up to be right around the same price, so I can pretty much build whatever blend I want without affecting the final price of the pizza. So from Walmart, I picked up this Monterey Jack, which I've tried on pizzas in the past. It has a nice, tangy, cheesy flavor, but you do have to blend it in with mozzarella if you want to achieve the proper kind of gooey, stretchy cheese texture. Now, I also picked up some provolone and some Havarti, both of which already came sliced. And by the way, for the other ones, rather than grating them small like you typically see on a pizza, when I'm using a little bit less cheese like I'm doing here, I like to cut them into bigger slices. That way they just melt a little bit more slowly and kind of prevents them from getting lost in the sauce, so to speak. Now, Havarti, I've actually never tried on a pizza, and just based on the raw texture, I'm assuming it's gonna melt a little bit better than something like the Monterey Jack. Now, with all that said, let's compare these two different mozzarellas and see what we're working with. On this side here, we've got the part skim. On this side here, we've got the whole milk. And first of all, I gotta say, I mean, I'm actually
has, like,
really
less
impressed with
oil.
how this pizza turned out just visually. So, let's give it a try. Whole milk,
The difference in the coloration.
skim.
I think I like the whole
Yeah,
milk.
so I think overall, even though the whole milk cheese maybe tastes a little bit better, it doesn't have that great of a texture, just because it does kind of resemble more of a fresh mozzarella. I mean, fresh mozzarella is really meant to be baked for 90 seconds, maybe a maximum of like 2.5 minutes, whereas this pizza was baked for about 5 minutes. And when you bake fresh mozzarella for that long, it becomes pretty rubbery and just kind of falls off the pizza when you bite into it. This Walmart brand part skim actually didn't have too bad of a flavor to it, and you can tell just by looking at the pizza pizza, it melted a lot better, and overall just created a more desirable result. So with that out of the way, let's try to make this ultimate pizza here. So as usual, I baked on my preheated baking steel at my oven's highest temperature, and after 3 minutes, I rotated the pizza and turned on the broiler to get some extra browning on top. And after about 2 more minutes, the pizza was done. All right, so pretty good looking pizza here. But not only do we have this pizza, but what I did was make one of my signature recipe that I use for my pop-up. Kind of a no expenses spared pizza, just for the sake of comparison, because I know this is a recipe that I like, so I'm really curious to see how it compares to this one. And you can see they look pretty different just looking at it. So again, this one costs 97 cents to make, whereas this one costs about $2.31 according to my calculations. Mainly because I use higher quality flours, a couple higher quality cheeses, some Parmigiano Reggiano, and obviously some basil on top as well. What I want to know though is it actually worth it to spend that much more? I mean, this actually is a really good pizza. Like, I mean, you can kind of tell just visually, but I'm with how this flour performed. Got some really nice charring and browning, nice crispness on the bottom. I will say the texture's a little bit tougher, not quite as tender as what I like, but I mean, for 97 cents, I'm super impressed with this pizza. Obviously no complaints with the sauce considering how good those tomatoes are, and I actually really like the Havarti cheese as well. I could tell it had a little bit of
some crushed red pepper.
Separates a little bit more, rather than becoming kind of gooey and stretchy. This is my pizza here. I mean, it's a good pizza. That's why my pop-up is called Good Pizza. But yeah, I mean, obviously I put a ton of time and effort into picking the best ingredients, dialing in the process here. The dough texture is a lot better, a lot more tender. There's no question I do like this one better. I probably could have baked it a little bit darker, to be honest. I think that's kind of where the main visual difference between these two comes in. This one I did bake a little bit more well done. But I mean, those Alta Cucina tomatoes really just take it to the next level. Using a proper full-fat again, the Parmigiano and basil, personally like, although that may not be for everybody. So for less than half the price though, I'm super happy with this. I thought we were gonna kind of end up with some sort of abomination, just trying to use the cheapest ingredients possible. If any of my local
that's
pizzerias
Texas,
sell
isn't
something
it?
like this.
Are we getting into Texas? 1331.
133.1 Charlie Uniform Mike.
We're doing things for the first time in like an hour. Fort Worth,
Center,
we're
November
near
6-9
Texas,
Charlie
we're on the east
Uniform
coast,
Mike,
west coast of
11,000 feet.
Texas. Fort Worth is like right on the west of Texas, right? 3007, okay. Oh, we're getting there. So that means if I go to menu and go to north up, are we entering Texas? Yeah, we're entering the Texas airspace roughly. And then just straight shot to Austin. Oh, we're almost there, guys, we're almost there. Look at how far we've gone. Another like hour and like 80 minutes, well, hour and like 50 minutes probably. It's 2 hours roughly.
And I think it just goes to show that really the process itself is way more important than the actual recipe you use. I mean, obviously high quality ingredients are important.
I just nipped myself in the corner of my chair.
Ow. Pizza, even on a tight budget. And this really wasn't meant to be any sort of promotion for my workshop, because honestly I didn't think this was going to turn out as well as it did. If I can make a great pizza using Walmart and Aldi ingredients, then you can too with the right knowledge and just a little bit of practice. So my goal with this workshop is to save you some time so you don't have to go through that same struggle. Cool. So you can check it out via the link in the description
I'm totally
below.
doing this. I'm totally trying this out. Returns. Rob's playing Foxhole. Aki is still doing that quiz. Damn. I don't know what sort. Oh, they're playing that new jar game. Oh, it's like one of the games that Rob was playing, but it's built. They probably maybe got inspired. Oh, what channel is that pizza guy? He has so many good pizza. Anderson, one of my favorite YouTube. So good pizza videos.
How I used to probably deal with every time.
Oh my
I
god, I
make pizza.
really
Well,
bruised
it may
myself.
remind me of what I could get at my favorite pizzerias. So for years, I searched the internet to find to the point where I was convinced that I was never gonna make restaurant quality pizza. Technique.
I don't really like Detroit
The past
pizza.
5 months, someone from the Detroit
Never.
area. Mainly comes down to one thing: the pan. Detroit style pizza is gonna see pans are I most
my
popular
leg.
style. I've got an inch. They also have bigger temp. Options. In case this pizza is that itself is really the only equipment. Without I'll leave a spreadsheet download. You enter pan size, how many people you make, and even some topping preferences so that you can customize and scale this recipe however you like. But next, 1% powder. That's 1% as a
knuckle on my
baker's
face.
percentage. And for every 100 flour. So this not only helps the crust to brown, but it also breaks down the wheat into fermentable sugars, stronger fermentation, and higher rise. And after that, we'll sprinkle in the yeast. And after a lot of testing with this recipe, I finally settled on a hydration level of 75%. Basically, the higher the hydration, the lighter and airier the crust ends up, but also the less crispy it becomes, and the more it struggles to hold up to the weight of the toppings. So I found 75% to be the perfect middle ground, which again means 75 grams of water per 100 grams of flour. Now you may also notice I haven't added salt yet. With pretty much any pizza dough, I typically mix it without salt first, because salt tightens the dough and slows gluten development. So after mixing, I'll let the dough rest for about 20 minutes, then add the salt and sort of in like so. And after that's done, I'll move the dough to another container, which you don't have to do, but I like using a clear container so I can see how much the dough is rising. Because to let the dough rest at room temperature until it's grown by at least 50%, which should take about 1 to 2 more hours. And during that time, we're also going to come back about every 20 minutes. Alternative to again, the dough is stronger. The dough is you just first like I'd recommend checking out my buddy's style. Now, after formally folds that in the cold fermentation, make sure that it's as strong as. So in this case, I did that about 24 hours in, and then threw the dough back into my fridge for about another 2 days. In the meantime, I could prepare my sauce and cheese. So let's talk sauce, and as usual, the brand of tomatoes you use makes a huge difference. You want to use the best tasting tomatoes you can find. I'm a big like that. If you can get the Alta Cucina, 1 can on a sauce, freeze it as well. Blend the whole can up. With each of garlic and red peppers. So I'll blend that up and then put it all in a. You have to be careful. Favorite pan. But for the past 5 months, I've been up.
Better. Why is it? Oh, I forgot the mouse. Beeping. Why are we beeping? What beeping? What beeping happening? Is that better? No.
Did it?
It did not. No. Scare me like. I left my keyboard. I restarted the NDI stream from my PC. Actually lagging. And now being really mad. Right? Or was that a low fuel warning? Is it behave? launch OBS on my PC. It won't cut the stream out. It'll just pause it. You guys will be able to hear anything for a second. Better now. Is it behaving now? Doesn't look like it. It's now. What's happening? I swapped from my 6 GHz Wi-Fi to my normal Wi-Fi. At 132.6.
132.6 for Charlie Uniform Mike.
Alright, I think that fixed it.
Southwest 2332, flight level 3990. Southwest 2332, Fort Worth Center. Continue to Lima Lima Oscar as planned.
Fort Worth Center, November 69 or Charlie Uniform Mike 11,000 feet.
That fucked the VOD.
Fort Worth Center on 133.1. Good day. November 69er Charlie Uniform Mike Fort Worth
No,
Center.
it didn't.
altimeter
Okay, cool.
30.08. Continue to
3008. Okay. 3008.
for Southwest 2332.
Alright. Let's resume that
Not a
video.
mission to make the ultimate.
Oh, we're not.
Good day.
Bro, I was just there, you bitch. Okay, I was literally just there.
Going
I was
to
just talking to that guy.
133.1 Charlie Uniform Mike.
Yeah, it's saved. Okay, cool. It's smooth as butter now. Awesome. 1332. Okay. So,
Center, November 69 or Charlie Uniform Mike 1,000 feet.
November 69er Charlie Uniform Mike Fort Worth Center altimeter 30.09er. Continue to visit as planned.
Alright, now we can resume the video.
Pizza. Because as someone from the Detroit area, I not only wanted to learn a clear container so I can see how much the dough is rising. Because now it's time to let each of garlic powder and red pepper flakes.
Alrighty.
So I'll blend that up and then put it all in a big
Thank
saucepan
God.
over
Thank
about
God I was able to
medium
fix
or
it. It was
medium
just the
low heat.
Wi-Fi.
Then I'll just simmer the sauce, stirring pretty
the
frequently
Wi-Fi being
until it's
dog
reduced
shit.
by about a third to a half. And of course, you have to be careful not to burn the sauce, so be sure to keep it over a light simmer, stir it frequently, and use a high quality pan with an even heat distribution. And for that, I'm using my favorite stainless steel saucepan from this video sponsor, Made Report. So after about 20 minutes of simmering in my stainless steel skillet, my sauce looks ready. Of course, it may take longer if you're using a smaller pan or if you're making a larger batch of sauce. But you'll know it's ready when there's barely any extra liquid left, and you can a spoon. And when I pour the
I don't
sauce
have an
into
Ethernet
another
cable that I
container,
can
it's a
plug
little
into
more
my
than half of its
laptop
original
for this.
volume, which is just
I'm
about
literally
perfect.
right next to the
Now, you
router,
can make
and I have a
these sauce up to
Wi-Fi
like 3 or 4
6
days
and
in
Wi-Fi
advance.
6E.
So now that mine
So
is
it's
done, I'm gonna
pretty-
throw it in the fridge until
it's
I'm ready. From here, the only
internet,
other
really.
thing we need to prep is the cheese.
Except
And
for
there's
stuff
really
like
only
this, I
one
guess,
correct choice for
sometimes.
Detroit style pizza.
The 6E
and that
network is very
Wisconsin
finicky.
brick
It's
cheese.
not a
It's
very
basically just
strong
a
signal.
richer,
Only my
creamier,
headset
and
usually
tangier
uses it.
alternative to mozzarella. And it really does have a distinct flavor that, in my opinion, really defines a Detroit style pizza. However, this cheese is a bit hard to find. I'm able to get some at my local food service store, and there are a few options for buying it online, which I'll link below. But I've also come up with an alternative cheese blend for those that absolutely can't or don't want to get Wisconsin brick cheese.
That's the
And I
one?
covered this in more detail in
Wow.
the cheese episode of this
Wisconsin brick
series.
cheese.
But
Never
basically
heard
a
of
blend of 40% Munster, 40% Monterey Jack, and 20% mild white cheddar seems to get pretty close to the flavor and texture of Wisconsin brick cheese. And the way you prepare the cheese is important too. So I tried a variety of different methods and found that simply grating it is easily the best. It allows you to get an even distribution of cheese on the pizza so that not only do you not have bare spots, but you also don't have to worry about the dough caving in due to chunks of cheese weighing it down. So with all that said, we've got our cheese, we've got our sauce. Now let's get ready to bake the pizza. If I want to make it, I'll take the dough out of the fridge, usually pretty early because it's going to have to rise at room temperature before we can bake it. But before we can divide this dough up, we have to prepare our pans, which basically just means coating them in oil. So I like to use olive oil for the best flavor, and as I've tested this recipe more and more, I've realized that actually the less oil you can use in the pan, the better. Because while the oil does add some flavor and helps to crisp up the dough, too much oil can cause the pizza to become overly greasy or even burnt. Oil's primary purpose is just to prevent sticking to the pan and to add that tiny bit of flavor and crispness. So as you can see, I'll typically add a pretty healthy amount to start and then wipe it down with a paper towel so that only a very thin layer remains. Now, as promised, if you want to buy a pizza pan, there are a few other options. Actually, a lot of other options, because I mean, pretty much any baking pan would work. What I found to work best, like I mentioned before, is a carbon steel pan, but if you have a bread pan, a brownie pan, glass, stainless steel, cast iron, really anything would work. Just make sure that whatever you're using is completely oven safe, because most glass, for example, is only oven safe up to like 425 degrees Fahrenheit, so you'd need to bake at a lower temperature to account for that. And in the spreadsheet, I've given you an option for round pans as well, so just enter the diameter of your pan, and it'll tell you exactly how much dough to use, so that your pizza ends up at the proper thickness. Which, by the way, is another thing a lot of people get wrong about Detroit style pizza. Most people make it too thick, but when I went to Detroit, I actually got out a ruler and measured each of the pizzas I tried, and they ranged between 3/4 of an inch to 1 1/8 inches. With the best pizzas, in my opinion, being on the higher end of that range. So for me personally, I aim for about an inch or just slightly over. And like I mentioned before, you can also enter your preferences for cheese and sauce in the spreadsheet to customize this pizza exactly how you like it. Personally, I like light cheese and medium sauce, but if you're not sure, I think keeping both at medium would be a good place to start. But anyways, once our pan is prepared, we can divide up our dough. So to make sure the crust is as even as possible and strong enough to hold up the toppings, I like to start by balling the dough up nice and tight. Usually I'll fold it over in my hands like so, and then close off the seam at the bottom. But since this is a pretty high hydration dough, it may be easier just to drag it along the counter like so. It doesn't really matter which technique you use, the most important thing is just that the seam at the bottom is completely closed, so that you don't end up with a giant hole in the middle of your dough. Now of course the ultimate goal here is to stretch the dough to the edges of the pan, which we'll need to do in a few stages because the dough will be a bit too tight at the beginning here. So I'll start by flattening it out just then covering the dough up and leaving it alone for about an hour. And when I come back, it'll be much easier to stretch, although probably still won't stay all the way to the corners. So from here I'll come back every 30 minutes to continue stretching, making sure to keep the dough at an even thickness all throughout as much as you can. Sometimes it helps to pull at edges, sometimes you can just press it out. Either It usually takes me 2 to 3 sets of stretches before it'll stay all the way to the edges. And from here, we can just let it rise to get nice and airy. So technically you could bake this dough at any point now, but it's pretty hard to overproof this, and the longer you let it go, the lighter and airier the crust will end up, at least to a certain point. Personally, I usually let it rise for about 2 more hours until it looks like this, at which point it's ready to top and bake. And the baking method is the last key here to
Detroit
achieving
pizza
the
takes so
perfect
long to
Detroit style
make.
pizza. You see,
A lot
the
of
biggest
waiting.
problem I've been having is getting the dough all the way cooked through while also achieving that crispy cheese edge that's crispy but not burnt. And I've been struggling with this throughout this entire
Lower your
series,
temperature.
but I finally figured out a method that solves that issue. So about 20 minutes before baking, I'll preheat my oven to its highest temperature, which in my case is 550 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, a lot of people have recommended par baking your dough, aka partially baking before topping to fix that charring issue. But one of the defining characteristics of a Detroit style pizza, pepperonis and cheese sort of bake into the dough, and when you par bake crust alone, you lose out on that effect. So what I do rather than par baking is what I call par topping. Here's what I mean. So first I'll top the dough with some pepperoni, and keep in mind you want to use flat pepperoni here, not the putting it on. Then I'll add my cheese, but only a very thin layer for now, just enough to cover the top of the dough, and you want to be careful not to put too much around quite yet. Then just like this, I'll throw the pizza into my oven on the middle rack. And just as a note, I found that the middle rack works well for me, but this can depend on your oven. Basically, since ovens heat from the bottom, the lower the oven rack you use, the quicker the bottom is going to brown, and the higher the oven rack you use, the slower the bottom is going to brown. So feel free to adjust based on the results that you're getting in your oven. Anyways, I'll bake like this for 7 minutes and then remove the pizza from the oven. Then at this point, I'll add the rest of my cheese, this time being sure to place it all around the edges, followed by my sauce over top in a racing stripe pattern like so, which is traditional for Detroit style pizza. You can also add any toppings at this point if you like. Then I'll throw this back into the oven on the middle rack to bake for another 4 minutes, and depending on what toppings I'm using and how I'm feeling, I may also crank the broiler on for the last 2 to 3 minutes of baking to get a little extra charring on top. So basically what this method does is number one, it allows the dough to rise nicely during that first period without too many toppings weighing it down. And after that initial bake, the structure of the dough is pretty solid, so we can basically add whatever toppings we like. And in addition to that, we can ensure that we're getting that crispy cheese edge without it burning, because the cheese on the edge is really only baking for about 4 minutes. And you can see when we remove the pizza from the pan, we've got an almost crown-like effect
No
on the
turbulence
cheese.
at all.
It's super crispy, the dough is extremely light and airy, and when we cut into it, it's cooked perfectly. And this, my friends, is an authentic Detroit style pizza at home. It's got the perfect crispness without being burnt, with that really nice cheese edge, super light, airy crust. The sauce is bright and tangy. To me, this is the perfect Detroit style pizza. So anyways, remember to check out the full recipe and spreadsheet below. And I not only wanted to learn what makes this pizza so special, but
Wow, we lost all our viewers from that. Jeez. Stream didn't die though, did it? Oh, it had a video error. Ouch. Wow, that's great. What was I doing? Oh yeah. Oh, no. See, oh my god, that's bright. Bright! Let's see what this looks like. Oh, you can see all the Texas suburbs starting to take shape. All the grid shapes coming into play here. Or these are more plots of land. I don't think there's any houses here. Yeah, let's go real time. Please? There we go. No, they're not oil wells. They're just empty plots of land waiting for development, I think. No, dashboard. Alrighty. How far are we? Let's go. Let's go. Austin, waypoint info. Go. An hour and a half. Okay. We're making good speed. Making good speed. Alright. Let's check some of the weather. I want to try some. I want to see what the winds aloft are. Actually, can I do that with this panel? I need more of a TAF, not a METAR. I need like winds aloft data. So do that. Go back to aviation weather. Alrighty, winds.
Southwest tree 781 climb and maintain flight level 390. Climb and maintain flight level 390.
Alright, we are roughly over here, right? Good, looks like higher up is for our tailwind. That's not what I clicked. And wanted to click at least. Move you out of the way. I have enough people to play Star Citizen with. I haven't talked to Mabel in years, actually years. That's what I think about it. Ooh, KLAS. This is a new feature of this site. Drop path. Section.
Southwest 1845 descend and maintain flight level 260.
What's variable? I gotta open up the desktop version. I think it's monitor 3? Yeah. Wind speed.
Southwest 1845 maintain 260.
Looks like we're doing fine. We do want to be higher at this point then. Okay. What are we over right now? What's the nearest airport? We can just enter from there. Nearest airport. Mike Alpha Foxtrot. Let's put that in instead. So we'll go to route. Mike Alpha Foxtrot. Yeah, we want to stay around 11,000. That'll put us right in here. Technically, we could descend.
Southwest 1845 descend and maintain flight level 260.
Send a little bit halfway there. Winds, but by the time we do that, yeah, the winds would be better around 7,000 feet. Where we're at right now. I want to stay there. So, looks like
Southwest 1845 descend and maintain flight level
No, we want to stay around 12,000, 11,000 feet. Because see how these are pointing this way? That means the wind is actually coming this way. So this is the direction of the wind, and the amount of bars. Each one of these bars is 10, and a half bar is 5. So that's about 15 knots, 20 knots right there. So if we were to look up where we are up here, it's about 10 to 15 knots. So if we look at our airspeed, 149 knots plus 10, 169 plus another 15, 173. But that's not our true airspeed. We need a true airspeed calibrator. We do calculators for it, but we can't. There's no true airspeed calculator on this aircraft. We can't really get it. But plus our altitude, it roughly counts out to 189 with our tailwind right there. God, we're so close. We're so close. All the way from up here. You're right here. We've made the distance.
Southwest 1845, descend and maintain flight level.
Put the route in. Yep, and that's where we are right now, roughly right there, and that's where we started. We've come quite a good distance, I think. Look at the blacked out area over Mexico. We have the data. It's just we only provide data for people in the United States, so it's all just blacked out, even though it's all technically like same. You wouldn't have this data here without and this data here without the data in between. Like you totally have this right here. Geopolitics are such a funny thing. No, I will not show my current position. Alright. Go back. Man, that stream restart really fucked me, didn't it? We've been live for probably 6 hours now because of the additional hour. What time is it? 11:50. Damn. Still got a ways to go then. We're getting close though. We're getting close.
Southwest 1845, descend and maintain flight level 260.
Okay.
Fort Worth Center, American 1607 is passing flight level 300, climbing flight level 0. American 107 Fort Worth Center, continue to
A mustard. That's a good channel. Probably the last video before I just focused on the flight for the last hour. I've watched most of these, but I don't think I've watched this. Oh, that's the nuclear powered boat. I remember watching that one.
In the spring of 1969, the U.S. Navy begins testing its
Watch
newest
this
vessel.
video.
But this is no
Why is it
ordinary
not pinned?
ship. It
Oh,
doesn't
I'm
float
doing-
on top of the water. It can lift itself
one.
right out of it. What no other ship can: move at unheard of speeds, operate in rough seas, and outmaneuver anything else on the water. 60 years ago, the U.S. Navy set out to build ships that could fly. In the 1960s, the U.S. Navy was the most capable in the world, ready to project power to any. Learned about a new threat.
Does that use
from the
ground
Soviet
effect?
Union.
Yes, it does.
Soviet nuclear-powered submarines were becoming faster,
ground
more
effect
capable,
vehicles.
and being built in large numbers. The latest generation under development would reach an incredible 41 knots fully submerged, speeds that would allow them to hunt down any ship.
No,
in
these
the
are not
US
the ground
fleet,
effect ones.
even
These
outrun
ones,
torpedoes.
different.
They
I
would
think,
also
technically.
dive to record depths, making them extremely difficult to intercept. With their new submarines, the Soviets could shadow American carrier groups anywhere in the world and launch a devastating strike at a moment's notice. Destroyers and frigates might detect the incoming subs using sophisticated sonar, but they'd have no way of closing the distance to engage them. The Navy would need to develop much faster ships, and they'd do it by turning to a technology that was already old. In 1906, an Italian engineer devised a way to make a boat go a lot faster.
133.7
Using a series
for
of
Charlie
foils,
Uniform Mike.
essentially underwater wings, his boat could lift out of the water as it accelerated, reducing drag,
Fort Worth Center,
allowing for
November
much
6
higher
Charlie
speeds.
Uniform Mike
It
11,000
was called
feet.
a hydrofoil, and a decade later, inventor Alexander Graham Bell invented a foil that set a new all-time marine speed record, demonstrating the awesome potential of the technology. And the hydrofoil was progressively improved, and in the 1950s, commercial hydrofoils were entering into service. But hydrofoils received little attention from the US Navy because, for the most part, they were only suited for calmer waters, not out on the ocean where the Navy needed them.
There we go.
That's because most hydrofoils worked by skimming close to the surface, a design that made them stable but easily affected by waves, limiting their use to calmer lakes and waterways. But there was a second way to build a hydrofoil. By positioning the foils entirely underwater, they would be unaffected by the waves above, allowing for smooth operation even
Make it
in
hard
rough
to maneuver,
seas.
though?
The problem was that design wasn't dynamically stable, meaning how the foils would have to be continually adjusted to keep the craft level. And it wasn't until the these to make it work really came into existence. It was at this time that the US Navy realized that ocean-going hydrofoils could be the answer to the Soviet challenge. With their speed and ability to operate in virtually any condition, hydrofoils could chase down Soviet subs.
They actually built some of these? What the fuck?
Plainview, the Navy's fourth hydrofoil, was built to evaluate the potential of large ocean-going
I like how they're
hydrofoils.
literally just
By
cockpits
1970,
instead of
the
like
US Navy had
helms.
4 prototype
fuel yokes and
hydrofoils
everything.
under evaluation, with the 2 largest being the 110-ton USS High Point and the 320-ton Plainview, at the time the world's largest. But on the drawing board were conceptual designs for even larger ships, ranging way up to 2,500 tons, destroyer escort-sized
Damn.
hydrofoils that could even be equipped with helicopters. But before any of that, each of the Navy's prototype ships would need to go through their paces
So
to
weird
evaluate
looking. Oh my
various
God.
foil configurations and propulsion systems.
Hydrofoils are expected to operate in the open ocean, where they may be subjected to severe storms.
The ships were also fitted with the latest armament to test their combat potential, including operating guns while moving at high speed, launching
Damn.
torpedoes, and firing anti-ship and anti-aircraft missiles. For the largely traditional Navy, hydrofoils were a radical departure, involving new technologies that blurred the lines between naval and aviation. And nowhere was this more apparent than on Plainview. At hull-borne speeds, Plainview operated much like a conventional ship, powered by a pair of 600 horsepower
Wow, they can
diesel
actually
engines.
get pulled up
But
like that.
when it needed to
The
get up and
fuck?
go, Plainview's crew would hydraulically lower the foils and run up a pair of 14,000 horsepower gas turbines. The 2 jet engines were largely the same one on fighter jets like the F-4 Phantom. They transferred power through an intricate
Really,
transmission
jet
system,
boat?
which drove 2 supercavitating titanium propellers at the end of each foil. With this setup, Plainview at over 50 knots, but the ship was designed to be upgraded with an additional set of jet engines and a supercavitating foil system, which would allow for speeds of up to 90 knots. The ship's foils were connected to an automatic control system, which functioned much like the autopilot on an aircraft. This system continually adjusted angle of attack to maintain level flight, using readings from a sonic height sensor, accelerometer, and a set of gyros, allowing Plainview to maintain high speeds even in 10-foot waves. As the most ambitious of all of the Navy's experimental ships, Plainview would help lay the groundwork for large ocean-going hydrofoils. The Navy issued requirements for Plainview in 1960, with Grumman winning the bid for design in 1961. 2 years later, the project was transferred to Lockheed for construction. And when the ship was launched in the summer of 1965, it was hailed as a technological marvel, an exciting thing. But beneath the surface, there was already a sense that things weren't going to go according to plan. Delayed the program. It meant Plainview wouldn't make its first high-speed test run until March of 1960. And even then, it was plagued with deficiencies that should have been sorted out at a much earlier stage. By 1969, the ship was already 3 years behind schedule and 100% over budget. At that point, the Navy decided to take matters into their own hands, accepting the unfinished ship to try and work out the issues themselves. But it would be easier said than done. Each of the Navy's 4 prototype ships were one-of-a-kind experimental designs. It meant development resources would have to be stretched across all 4, further slowing progress. In May of 1974, the Navy sent Plainview to dry dock to undergo a major 2-year overhaul. Enhancements included a more refined hydraulic system and an advanced digital autopilot. After the overhaul, Plainview was a ship, more capable out at sea and much more reliable. But many in the Navy had also grown impatient with the ship's protracted development, while others had nothing to do with hydrofoils. For all their advantages, hydrofoils also had a few critical drawbacks. Compared to conventional warships, they were weight critical, requiring aluminum hulls, which were neither as strong nor as cost-effective to build. Weight limitations also meant hydrofoils would be less armored and carry less armament. Their complex foils and dual propulsion systems would make them less dependable and more maintenance-heavy, consuming a greater share of the Navy's budget. And when it came to anti-submarine warfare, by the mid-1970s there were more practical alternatives. The Navy had made huge strides in utilizing aircraft to track and hunt down submarines, which were more effective and economical to operate. It meant the case for large ocean-going hydrofoils like Plainview no longer seemed as it was.
200 miles.
PHM-1
Started at 1,000.
is the first ship in a new class of hydrofoils.
After more than a decade of research and development, the U.S. Navy did eventually put a hydrofoil into production. At 240 tons, the Pegasus class was significantly smaller than Plainview, and nowhere near the size of the large ocean-going hydrofoils once studied by the Navy. Instead of hunting down submarines, Pegasus ships were designed for coastal patrol on smaller seas in the Baltic. At one point, there were plans to build 44 ships, with German and Italian navies showing interest. But after extensive research and development, only 6 entered service with the U.S. Navy, and they were retired after just 10 years of high operating costs and lack of a useful mission. In 1978, the Navy's budget for experimental hydrofoil development was suddenly cut from $2.2 million a year to zero, sinking any prospects for further hydrofoil development.
Oh, that was it. Damn. Cut that video out quick. Alrighty. Dashboard. Alright. Put this behind us. We're only about an hour out. We should start planning out, so. Point info. No, that's default view. It's hard to see. Resolution's not too great. Waypoint info, airport. frequencies. The ATIS loaded in. Going to guess what we'll do. Tower here. I don't know which tower we're gonna get. Tower there. We can get the ILS. What are we probably going to get? Are we close enough to get the ATIS? If we were to monitor it. Is that the ATIS? No. Alexa dismiss. What does that say? 1240. Alright, there we go. I don't think we can pick up on that. We'll leave it in there for now. For when we can get the ATIS. Probably want to be like 30 miles out before we do that. 30, 40 miles out. Hop over to the fuel tanks one more time, and we'll do these for like 20 minutes. And then I'm gonna do it with the mouse. So it's about 40 pounds left. Doing 60. Alexa, 15-minute timer. So in an hour we would do about double it. So we'd want to do 20 minutes on this, 15 to 20 minutes. We'll check where it is in 15 minutes and see how it is. Oh, hi puppy. Hi, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you, Nero. Good boy. Back up. Make a HelloFresh meal after this, I think. That new beef pasta. Sounds so good. So that way we'll burn the rest of the fuel in our ox tanks, and we'll be on the main tanks for the rest of the flight after that. Because right now our mains are about 120 gallons left, 120 pounds left, so that's a little over an hour. Nero, stop. That's cutting a little bit too close to when we'd be landing, so we'll burn off of these. That way we have like a 30-45 minute buffer of the main tanks. We don't lose or lose the engines right on final or something stupid like that. Yeah, Nero, you're pushing my chair. What do you want, you little fucker? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? You want my attention? You want my attention, you little bitch? Yeah, the dog's in the plane with me. He's pushing my chair. You see me rotating, facing this way? It's literally because he's pushing my chair. That's him. That's him doing that. Oh, good puppy. Oh. Boy. Alrighty. Good back there, chat. You've been watching after Nero the entire flight. You've been doing good. You don't have your phone or anything you want to play on? No? Alright. Oh, Nero, you can't be there. That's my rudder pedals. You're gonna do this when I'm flying, like on short final, and you're gonna crash us. Then the entire flight will be ruined. So that would be pretty funny, wouldn't it? 187. Under an hour now. Under an hour. It's quite literally a straight shot there. Bearing 110, and we're going 108. That's pretty much identically there. Let me get these though. Set. Wait, we don't have a glide slope on this thing. We can't do the we can't do the ILS. Do we have a glide slope on this? No way. Oh, it's down here. This has to pop out. I'm pretty sure that pops out if something happens, right? A glide slope on the side here. Yeah, something pops out of the top. Okay, I have to use this down here. Oh shit, I hit the autopilot. I hit my head on the yoke and it knocked the autopilot off. Boy, move. Cool. Get the approaches up as well. I have all the approaches and everything loaded in here. Depends on what it gives me though. So I've loaded up every approach. Oh, I can't click on it. Yeah, just alt tab into it. There we go. Oh, the negative view is very weird. Second. Desktop monitor 3. Is there a way to dark mode the outside as well? No, I don't think so. We'll just have to do it like this. I don't even know what the weather is. The entire ILS could have changed by now. Let's see what everyone's doing on Twitch. Hockey doing? I think that's what. Dying in a free for all. Save you doing? The VR chat? Yeah, they're doing the VR chat stuff. Oh, it's Sora. Are they doing the same thing? Yeah. Sort of a slow night, I guess. Not much going on.
American 457 descend and maintain
donut wing planes? What the fuck is this person talking about?
The aircraft
I've never actually heard of this.
in one very big way.
That's what this is about.
The aircraft you see on screen is different in one very big way.
Yeah, it's pretty
The
obvious.
wings
You can look
are
at it.
round. More specifically, the wings form a circle all the way around the fuselage. A closed wing, or more
Probably a
accurately,
manufacturing
ring
cost
wing
reason.
around the plane. This innovation, while at first looks like an AI-generated plane, is actually a design that is far more fuel efficient, generates more lift, and was almost the future of aircraft design. But the ring-wing commercial plane would be buried and never see the light of day. What would this ring-wing plane
Where did the
be like
control
to
surfaces
fly?
go, though?
Why did we never build it? And whatever happened to the concept completely? Join us today to discover what goes around comes around in the world of wacky aviation.
Never heard of the ring wing. Literally never.
Like posters, merch, and supporting a channel and creator who has made weekly videos for you for years? That's right, the Found and Explained merch store is open, and I've tried really hard to come up with legit cool stuff for aviation fans. So check it out and let me know what you think. Link it below.
American 457 descend and maintain flight level 320.
Our story of the ring-wing aircraft has its roots at the dawn of aviation. Not the Nazis this time, of course, for those watching the channel for a while, but actually the French. An early example of the closed wing was
Just save
on
this
the
flight real
Bell
quick.
Riot 3 aircraft.
Sort of
built
don't.
by
I'm sort of
Louis
worried about something
Beret
happening
and
now.
Gabriel
Now that we're
Wilson.
so close.
The lifting surfaces comprised of two annular wings mounted in tandem, and the later version replaced the forward annular wing with a biplane and added a canard foreplane to make it a 3-service aircraft.
Let me save this real quick.
Delta 2154 climb and maintain flight level 390.
It was able to leave the ground
There.
in small
No, it
hops
saved it.
before being damaged beyond repair.
Save before we land
But that
too.
leads us to the future with our hero of the story, Lockheed. Advancements in the ring-wing concept, especially the French VTOL fighter aircraft after
64
World War II,
miles.
made Lockheed wonder if this concept could also be used for future fighter jets. But then they thought, why not make it a little bigger? It's the 1980s and Lockheed needs a new aircraft to beat back MD and going for the trophy of the world's best commercial aircraft builder. So enter in our aerospace engineer star, Rollo Smethers. You might have actually heard of him before, as he's the brainchild of the Lockheed flatbed aircraft that we've already covered on the channel. So you know
Checking
that this
something else
concept
that
is
headset?
just as wacky. But it's this ring-wing commercial monster that he came up with that's the focus of today's video. And boy, it is one of the most fantastical aircraft I've ever had the pleasure of showing.
Seems like it'd be really unstable
With the
though.
title of the Ring-Wing Lockheed Commercial Transport, it would be 52 meters long with a wing circumference of 7.4 meters. The wing itself would be a low mid-length attachment before arching backwards 27 degrees to attach itself to the tail of the aircraft.
Increasing lift would also mean making the entire radius bigger.
Reaching up to 23
Height.
meters.
It would have you'd have
making it
issues
really
putting it in any
fit
hangars.
into the hangars for say the 737. And
Yeah, I
with
just
the
said that.
blueprints, you can see just how low the actual fuselage is compared to the wing. There are two control surfaces along the tail to control the direction of travel, thanks to no flaps on the wing itself. On board, it would mimic the configuration of the Airbus A320 or the 737, carrying around 120 passengers in a 3-3.
Yeah, the end. You have engine
configuration,
size limitations
making
too,
it
because they have
perfect for
to fit on the
short
inside.
routes. Because of the fuel efficiencies of the design, it would be perfect for those commuter destinations that don't really reach high altitudes, such as New York to Boston, London to Manchester, or my personal favourite, Sydney to Melbourne. This concept reaches far of some media testing, like the article you can see here, and initial discussions with airlines. Naturally, these were just part of Lockheed's portfolio of innovative future ideas to make it seem like their stock standard designs were more futuristic. Now, I can't say for sure if any airlines ever really considered considered the ring wing concept. No further than wind tunnel tests. Now I should mention that Belarus got this concept working on a small crop duster aircraft, and it's none the less impressive. A few prototypes flew, but funding was eventually pulled by Russia and the project was abandoned. There is also another type of aircraft similar to this called the box wing, not a ring wing, and that is a whole other video because even Boeing is building a prototype one. If you want to see that, write in the comments and don't forget to click subscribe so you don't miss it. So I'm guessing at this point of the video you're wondering, gee Nick, this looks wacky, but would the ring wing actually fly? Well, let's dive into how ring wings work and finally understand why we don't have this beast today. A closed wing system, where the wing loops around the horizontal axes and reconnects to the fuselage of the aircraft, has several major advantages. Because the plane doesn't have actual wingtips, that means wingtip vortices and the downwash of the wing that they cause
makes it way more efficient,
and the wing can generate more lift, meaning shorter runways, less fuel, and no impact on cross winds. A triple win. Well, kinda. While Rollo was imaginative for sure, he was a little bit more loose on the physics of aviation. While a joined wing aircraft significant induced drag and structural advantages, they also suffer from increased parasitic drag and require careful design to avoid issues like flutter and boundary layer separation. Essentially, in layman's terms, the fuel saved from the increased lift
said something about me in
cancelled out by
stream.
increased drag. Now, this is something that is not apparently obvious when you're using wind tunnels, because the wings an infinite aspect ratio, exactly the same as a circular ring wing, something that they quickly discovered in the 1980s. We also have to mention that
we gotta swap these back
having
now.
a whole other wing on top, essentially like a biplane, just adds to the weight of the aircraft, and then you still need more fuel. In addition, there is also something called a wing twist. You might notice that on modern planes, the wing isn't flat, but rather twists away slightly from the fuselage. Specifically, a twist to the wing where the onboard position is at a higher angle of attack than the outboard. This means that your onboard will stall before your outboard, which has the control surfaces, and thus you can recover from the stall. Such a system wouldn't work on a ring wing plane. The benefits of this design outweigh the drawbacks only if the aircraft is well optimized for the mission, such as short runways or heavy cross winds.
200 knots.
But that's not all.
145 miles.
We also have to talk about money. Designing a joint wing
45 minutes then.
Strong interaction
45 minutes.
Different disciplines, such as structures and aerodynamics. This makes it difficult for the normal team of engineering specialists to optimize the design. Additionally, this type of design is not well understood or mature as conventional planes, which makes it more expensive to achieve benefits. Therefore, an established manufacturer
you should have like 40 to 50 pounds left by the time we need to land.
Instead of designing some crazy new concept. In summary, there's a reason why we abandoned biplane designs. Just like the ring wing, it's not the most efficient. But that didn't stop Rollo Smethers, Lockheed visionary and aviation pioneer, from imagining the impossible. He would unfortunately be taken from us much too young due to cancer, and we never realized many of his designs. And I thought, why not dedicate this video to him and the many other forgotten builders of a future that we could have had. This one is...
Alrighty. Any of you guys have a video request? More videos? Sort of out of things to watch? Just skimming my suggestions page. Actually interested in this. Why the U.S. Navy needs one forest in Indiana.
Navy, what do you think of? Boats, little outfits, the military industrial industrial complex? What about a 53,000-acre forest in Indiana? Well, start thinking about it because it exists, and it's here at the world's third largest naval installation, Naval Support Activity Crane. It's there so that the Barnacle Boys can do repairs on exactly one boat, conveniently located in nearby Boston. And if you're wondering on what planet the Navy managing a whole forest to repair exactly one boat is the best solution,
Oh, it's for the wood. It's for the wood.
on a effective explanation. The exactly one boat in question is this one,
To repair the
USS
wood.
Constitution, currently afloat here. She was launched into Boston Harbor at 12:15 p.m. 21st, 1797, making her both the oldest still floating, still commissioned naval ship in the world and a Libra. She's also a strong,
And a Libra.
work-oriented Capricorn rising, making her a huge asset to the young U.S. Navy, winning a decisive battle against the HMS Guerriere during the War of 1812. The story goes that the Constitution's 22-inch wide hull was so strong that the British cannonballs just bounced off its sides, prompting someone very clever to yell, "Huzzah! Her sides are made of iron," which landed her the nickname Old Ironsides, even though, huzzah! Her sides are not made of iron, they're made of white oak. And Old Ironsides is really old, 225 years, though she doesn't look it. That's because she gets frequent repairs and replacement parts, including new white oak planks for her sides. But during a restoration in 1973, they got worried because there wasn't much white oak left. And you can't just sub some other wood because white oak is, on a cellular level, better than just about any other at making oak float. You understand why we're going to tree school. No, not preschool, tree school. Thank you. Welcome to tree
1
school.
tree, 2
This is
decimal tree, 5
in the
Charlie
trunk of this
uniform Mike.
tree, there are two types of wood, sapwood and heartwood. If a tree's alive, the sapwood.
Houston Center, we're getting
Charlie
even
uniform
closer.
Mike
Hollow tubes like
11,100
this one,
feet.
which is called a silo, a 5-letter word worth a nearly miraculous 17 points in scrapbook. Each year, a fresh new ring grows on the outer edge of the sapwood, and the innermost sapwood ring retires into the heartwood to die. Put another way, the heartwood is a tree's floor. In many trees, including red oak, when a ring turns into heartwood, it gets pretty susceptible to
Getting
fungus or
tired,
bacteria or whatever
Long
wants to crawl
flight.
up through the xylons and wreak havoc. But it's a different
This
story
is just
with
how
white
it is,
oak.
I
When a ring of
I've
white
actually
oak sapwood
instinctively
turns
reached
into
forward to
heartwood,
touch
develops
something,
these
to
little
attune
tiny
something without my controllers, just thinking, like, I'm so immersed right now. This is so exactly how it is to actually fly one of these this distance. It's minus the video entertainment. Imagine this, but without video entertainment. You just have a podcast or music playing. Obviously, I'm taking it as serious, like a little bit less seriously than I would normally, like IRL, because obviously IRL you have the actual life or death situation of goes wrong, or there's way more risk, so you're way more focused. Every like probably minute I would be looking at oil pressure, or cylinder head temperature, oil temperature, EGT, fuel flow, everything, suction, and then I'd be like, okay, and then start focusing on the music for another like 2 minutes, keeping my eyes sort of over there. Why is our altitude high? Speaking of the devil.
Whose architecture crews took a wrong turn. You don't need the Navy to deal with that. Well, as it turns out, the Navy bought this land to store munitions during World War II on the assumption that if anyone dropped a bomb on the U.S., it probably wouldn't be in the middle of Indiana. After your state, that isn't even worth the bomb you intend to destroy it. But the land didn't take well to be, and after a lot of erosion, the Navy hired a forester to reforest it and take care of it in the 50s. Over one forester in Crane became a whole forestry and natural resources program that had the Navy managing trees, etc. in several timber forests. And of these, Crane became the most profitable and sustainable, so you can put that up on the list of worthwhile things about Indiana. So back to the USS Constitution. Seeing the lack of old-growth white oak supply during the 1973 restoration, Navy Captain Vernon P. Clapp, whose name was my favorite in the story until I realized these pictures were taken by a guy named Bill Couch, suggested that the Navy should start growing their own white oak to supply future Constitution repairs. And in 1976, they designated 150 trees across their very successful forest in Crane to be grown, maintained, and harvested to repair the USS Constitution. So now, when it's replaced the planks of clock at Charleston Navy Yard, 3 civilian foresters at Naval Support Activity Crane handpick which trees get harvested. In 2012, ahead of a restoration that would go from 2015 to 2017, those 3 examined 70 of the 150 trees and selected 35 that were ready for plankage. They cut them down during February 20th and 21st of 2014 because during other parts of the year, the endangered Indiana bat lives in Crane's white oaks and he camp while it went. They stored and dried out the wood in crane before shipping it out to Boston to get Bodie and continue looking after the rest of the forest ecosystem after to make sure they'll have healthy white oaks ready next time they're moved. And that's how the Navy manages an entire forest for exactly one boat. It's not the most conventional use of military funds, sure. I mean, forestry to extend the life of a mostly ceremonial boat isn't the number one thing I assume the US military did, but of the things the US military does, it's actually one of the most palatable. So float on, old Ironsides, huzzah!
How far? 121 miles. You play with an Xbox controller and mouse. Xbox controller is fun. I like getting. Sometimes I'll hop on and play Jets with an Xbox controller and just zoom around and do all that. DIY. Didn't that guy get like contacted to like stop doing that? No, I haven't. Link it. What do you see? 4-Byte Burger. I never watched this. I don't think. Let's watch Ahoy's new video. 30 minutes. Oh, we might not have time. Let me see. Let me click your link and go to monitor 1. No, this is not the guy I was talking about. Okay. Let's copy that. Here. Sir. I'm gonna get like arrested by Homeland Security for watching this video. Chinese. Showing, yeah, this is a Chinese maker. Just don't wear red near it. Jeez. Banging music though. It's gonna get me DMCA'd. But not, didn't get him DMCA'd. Let's see. Hamas is frothing at the teeth looking at this. Looks like something out of Cyberpunk, a 3D printed homemade surface to air rocket. Jeez. Calibration complete. It's ready to fucking blow some drones out of the air, I guess. Oh, it is. It's just tracking red. What the fuck? What's the range though on the tracker? That looks so illegal to own. That looks so fucking illegal to own. About 30 minutes till we're there. We'll watch like the first 15 minutes of this and then we'll focus on the flight.
Can I show you my favorite piece of pixel art? I don't know why I'm asking, because I'm going to show you anyway. Here.
I want to see. No, we can't pick up the ESC yet.
4-byte burger, and it was done by a guy named Jack Hager back in 1985. It's brilliant, it's whimsical, and it appeals both to my love of 80s aesthetics and of hamburgers. It's also among the first artwork ever produced on an Amiga. Jack Hager was the art director at Commodore, and he produced a series of images very early on in the machine's life to demonstrate its artistic capabilities. Some of these images have been preserved, but some, 4-byte burger included, have been lost. You see, the software Jack was using was in such an early stage of development that it lacked a save feature entirely. There was no way of storing the images you created to disk. The only reproduction we have of 4-byte burger is a photograph of the screen taken while the image was still in memory. A literal screenshot. The photograph was in the issue of the magazine and in the manual for Graphicraft, the software Jack was using. So we have these prints, at least. It's a nice enough capture, but it's not a pixel-perfect original. That's gone.
I didn't hear about anything like that.
But can we bring it back? Could we make a perfect reproduction? A digital restoration? It would be counterfeit, sure, but it's a part of history. And, more to the point, it's my favorite. So, where do we start? Well, it might be an idea to get an idea of some of the more basic parameters first. Resolution, color depth, that sort of thing. We know the image was created on an Amiga, almost certainly an NTSC model. If we look at the image, the pixels themselves appear It is highly at the standard low resolution of the Amiga 1000, which on an NTSC machine is 320 pixels by 200. However, there's something unusual about the image. It's taller than it is wide, and the scan lines are vertical. Every single CRT model counted scans horizontally, which seems to imply that either the camera or the monitor itself has been rotated by 90 degrees. It seems likely that the image was created using a monitor that was placed on its side, an impressively low-tech solution to attaining a portrait orientation. I do wonder if Jack held the mouse at a right angle to correct for this when drawing, or perhaps there was a more sophisticated solution. I don't suppose it matters much, as we've likely arrived at a conclusion for the image's size. The standard Amiga resolution rotated by 90 degrees gives us 200 pixels by 320. Another thing to consider is that the photograph might not have captured the entire screen. Some of the border may have been cropped. In order to size the image properly and to get close, it's helpful to know how much of the screen we're missing. We can get a reasonably good estimate of this by counting the scan lines. While the pixels might not line up exactly, it seems the pixel boundaries are relatively well aligned. By measuring the distance between a group of scan lines peak to peak and dividing by the number of scan lines we counted, we can extrapolate a pixel density and get a rough width of the visible screen area. Each scan line is 8.95 pixels across, and the visible area is 1682 pixels, which means we have 187 scan lines across the width of the photograph. This is 93.5% of the 200 pixel width we assumed, which seems like a reasonable crop. For the height, we can do the same. 2251 pixels of the photograph corresponds to 251 pixels in the final image. That would only account for 78% of the 320 pixels. But fear not, there is a reason for this discrepancy. Pixels on an NTSC display like this
Someone's
aren't
not
exactly
listening to the
square.
radio. Here, son,
A
14.
4:3 aspect ratio would need to have 240 lines to have square pixels, and so 200 lines means the pixels are stretched vertically by a factor of 1.2. As the monitor is rotated, this means that the pixels in our photograph are squashed vertically. So we can multiply the original estimate of 251 by 1.2 to get 301 pixels, which is 94% of our assumed original vertical resolution of 320. So the cropped version we see is approximately 301 pixels by 187, a 94% crop of the original resolution of 320 by 200. So that's our target size. Now it might be helpful to work out how many colors Jack used, so we can start to pin down a palette. In theory, the Amiga could display 4,096 colors at once in the ham display mode. But I don't think that many colors were necessary for this image, and as far as I know, Graphograph didn't offer
Passion over a fucking
the conventional Amiga graphics modes offered 1 to 5-bit color depth,
We're less than
or
100
2,
miles
4,
out.
8, 16, or
Yes, we are
32
83 miles
colors.
out.
There was a 6-bit mode called Extra Half Bright, which offered an additional 32 colors of half brightness, but the earliest Amigas didn't support this. If we look at Hager's other work, the surviving digital files, we can see that the majority use 5-bit color depth for a palette of 32 colors.
Bugging me. Here, stop.
I think it's
Here,
reasonable to
stop.
assume that
Nuh-uh,
4-byte
nuh-uh,
Burger
nuh-uh,
is the same.
nuh-uh.
We can't sample the exact colors from the
Doing
as
this
the
when I'm
pixels are
at
blurred,
land.
and the color balance is likely to be off anyway. But we can start to build our palette by sampling discrete shades. If we start to pick out the various colors used on each of the elements, we find that we've got around 50 different colors, which is too many. Luckily though, many of these colors are very similar, and we can effectively merge them and reuse them. And so, with a bit of with a palette of 30 colors, just within budget. These colors are not the exact originals, however. They've been filtered through phosphor, lens, film, and print reproduction. It's a nice palette, but we're looking for authenticity. To get closer to the originals, we could look at some of the other palettes
stop.
Jack has used and
Yeah.
see if we can emulate the
Yeah.
tones he might have picked. In fact, there is another surviving image that has a startling similarity to 4-byte Burger. And here it is. It's called Jumbo Dog, and it's possibly
Jumbo
my
Dog.
second favourite piece of pixel art. I mean, look at it. It's whimsical.
Here's being super cute.
It's
right now, but
animated.
not behaving.
Anyway, the bun mustard ketchup pickle combo covers a lot of the same colours as its burger-based contemporary, so I'm wondering if the palette used might share some similarities.
I need to go outside. Well, you have to wait like
One thing
30
we
minutes.
can do
you know?
is adjust the colour balance of our initial 30-colour palette to better match the one found in Jumbo Dog. The original colours are much more saturated than they
He
appear
actually
in the
does need to go
photograph.
out.
The delicate cerulean background might be closer to a pure spectral blue instead.
I'm gonna pause
Anyway,
the
once
game.
we've tuned our palette to match Jumbo Dog's, we
I
can
need to
start
go
to
let
look
Nero
for
out.
colours that
Give me a
might be
second.
ideal.
He's gonna poop inside if I don't. Alright, let's pause the game. Be right back.
Eurozone 42 tree descent and maintain 7
identical. And it seems a few of the colours have been reused. With a little colour juggling, we arrive at a palette that should be close to the original. And we've got
Alrighty,
room for a
Helen,
couple more
you're out. I'm
shades should
back.
the need arise.
With that.
One thing to consider is that the Amiga only had 4 bits per colour channel, instead of the usual 8 bits. This means that instead of 256 levels of red, green, and
One second. You on my laptop mic. The stream's not dead. It's just the broadcasting. Something from the way it's broadcasting isn't working anymore. You guys like my horrible quality laptop mic? Why aren't you getting anything? It's not picking up anything on NDI. Why? Why? It swapped back to 6 gig. Oh my god. Okay, stream's gonna go down again because for some reason. Oh no, it's not on 6 gigahertz anymore. What? Is it 6 gigahertz or not? Windows is literally telling me two different things. Okay, no, it's set to normally. Okay. Remote connection 1. It's only. Why is it not working? It's not even. It's not picking up anything on the network. Is my PC picking up anything? Yes. It's just my laptop. Okay. Cool. Um, that's nice. I guess. My desktop is picking up what's on my laptop. My desktop is picking up everything perfectly fine. It's just my laptop again. Okay, I'm gonna restart stream again. I had to restart OBS because, of course, it would just stop working. Of course. Oh, we do have weather, or no, this is terrain. We don't have weather on this thing. Let's close this video. We don't need it anymore. Focusing on the flight now. What time of day is it? I don't see any terrain below us. Hi Laura, hi, thanks for the tier 3 sub. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is it terrain? It's weather. I thought I didn't get radar. Okay. I guess there's some sort of convective activity there. So, wow, this is pretty. Holy shit, these clouds. Okay. Back to night. We're coming in at 70 miles away. Gotta adjust my seat. Get ready for landing a bit. We're about to approach the terminal approach area. About to enter the terminal approach area.